Executive Order 202.1, and until further notice, all of the board's meeting will be held remotely via video conference. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. Phil, may we have a roll call?
Certainly. Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty is not here yet. Secretary is here. Board Member Blaney.
Here.
And Board Member Burke.
Present.
And Board Member Long.
Present.
And let's see, we are missing Mr. Zuccarelli by his own admission. And welcome to Christine, whom we haven't seen for a while.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So we have a quorum.
Thank you. Can you please join in for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of
America
and to the republic
for which
it stands,
one
one
nation,
under
under God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and justice for all.
Phil, do we have any minutes?
We do. We have the minutes of September 3rd to approve.
September 3rd. We have a motion to approve that. Motion by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor? 5 in favor, 2 absent. Okay. So I will close the afternoon session and go into a work session. Do I need a motion for that?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Dennis is here, acknowledging Dennis. 6 in favor, 1 absent. So we are now in work session. Claire, who is here for that?
Chick Voorhees, David Martin Jr., and Mr. Dixon was supposed to be here also. And one other, David Berman. Thomas Dixon. So just to recap, the planning board had reviewed this for a submission of a pre-submission application at the last meeting, and you set a pre-submission conference for November 12th, which will be held at 6 p.m. But you wanted a work session because you haven't really talked about the application in its full form. You've seen this as a referral from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and you did assume lead agency for the project probably towards the end of last year. So SEQRA will still need to be done for this project. So you had encouraged a work session. The applicant agreed at the last meeting, and they are here to do that. So Chick Voorhees, I think, was going to
Okay, I just want to establish the players here. Chick Voorhees, Chick, can you hear me?
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, can't see you, but I hear you.
Let me get that fixed, starting the video.
There you go.
Buddy, hi there.
Okay, hi.
Afternoon.
So Chick, you are representing the applicant.
That's correct, yes.
Can I ask Mr. Gilmartin your role in this?
I am the lawyer for Engel Berman, who is the applicant.
You're the lawyer for Engel Berman. Is he here?
David Berman of Engel Berman is here.
David Berman.
But the applicant is Stehecki.
No,
This is
the applicant,
Stehecki application.
Engel Berman is a contract vendee who is making the application. The Thomas Stehecki Living Trust is the owner who has authorized Engel Berman to make the application.
So how does that work? Where we have a contract vendee making the application. I don't quite understand that.
I'm a little surprised because it happens all the time, but we're in contract to purchase the property. We have authority under that contract to make an application, first of all, to the zoning board, which is where this application started, and then to this board for both the SEQRA process, because you were designated lead agency, and ultimately and hopefully a site plan. So we have authority under the contract to make the application, and we have the proper documents that have been submitted to your staff from Mr. Stehecki that allows us to make the application.
Okay, number one, we haven't seen those documents. Number two, Chick, who
I
are
think
you
they have- I
representing?
think
Are you
it's-
representing Mr. Stehecki?
Excuse me one
Yes,
minute.
Jackie, David is going to start the presentation, and that is up on the screen now. And I will come in on a couple of the slides. So David is primarily going to be presenting.
Okay,
Can we go?
Just to make a point, excuse me, we did provide the owner's authorization as part of the application.
The
I
application,
agree. Stehecki signed the pre-submission application.
the last
Stehecki.
time this was on, we were not advised that it was a contract vendee on this. When Liz Vale was here, there was no disclosure made, nor have I seen anything more than a one-sheet map. So I have not seen any of these pre-application papers you're speaking of.
Well, they're in. I can't speak to your processes,
Well, neither can I lately.
how the
Can I speak to that?
information is submitted, but it's
Can I-
all in, and this is a work session. Ultimately, we're going to have a pre-submission conference, and that's when all the documents, are due, and then you can see them. But you asked for a work session, and we're here to talk about
but,
the.
Claire?
but
Can I just for a second?
please, Christine, can you
Yeah,
weigh in?
no, Claire, it's part of the process that if the owner's consent is not part of the authorization process, particularly with a contract vendee, the application therefore would not have been deemed even complete to proceed at this point, correct?
Correct. So the pre-submission application, which is submitted and is available online, was signed by the owner of the property.
We asked the last time this was on, we asked that the pre-submission, any of the paperwork be sent to us individually. The only thing that we received was a map.
I'm going to send it to you right now.
Yeah.
But you did not ask for the pre-submission application.
We
We
asked,
asked for all the documentation on this application so that we.
Send
can
me an
get
email.
prior to
If you
this
don't
meeting.
receive, I get a lot of requests. Send me an email. Okay, but I will send it to you now. I did not get a request for
do I have to put the tape of, we said,
Robin. Okay, I'm sorry. I will get you the application. It is 2 pages. Okay, I will get you the application.
And let's remember that we asked for this work session.
Right,
And the applicant was kind enough to give it to us and didn't really need to.
right. But Phil, what we're trying to clarify here is that we were under the assumption that the applicant was Stehecki and that he was represented by Liz Vale and by Nelson Pope. We find out that Claire Vale was representing the contract vendee. That was never disclosed on the record.
Elizabeth Bell.
Right, Elizabeth Vale, that was not disclosed. There was no transparency.
But
So-
that's neither here nor there. Why
I don't
are we
understand.
discussing this?
it's
It
not,
could be about ownership. We had an application a few years ago called Peter Pan Ventures. I'm not assuming that Peter Pan is the applicant. Could be Stehecki, could have sold it in the meantime, contract vendee. Why don't we get to the substance of the application?
Agreed.
Yeah,
Okay, well, we also wanted to get process, which we think is important. So we wanted an overview of where this application is, C of Os, permits, whatever. Big question last week, 2 weeks ago, was a big question about the DEC and where this property sits in relationship to the DEC. Are there active permits? Have the permits been closed out? Dennis asked a question about, was this use permitted? What about the C of Os? All of those ingredients. That's what we wanted to have some details on.
Okay, so, and we're here ready to do that. We have,
Okay, can you walk through the process?
I don't, when you say process, I think about the way that the town processes the application. If you want to talk about background in DEC, we're happy to do that. The process so far is we made an application for an update for a pre-existing certificate of occupancy that was granted by the building department
In 2019.
in 2019.
Right, and that's in litigation, I understand, right?
It was appealed to the zoning board that upheld the building inspector's determination to issue the certificate of occupancy.
Okay, can I just understand, in 1997, when the property was first purchased, the C of O that was on the property was for landscaping, am I correct? Landscaping?
No, you're not correct.
Oh, okay, please
That's not
correct me.
correct. I think it would be helpful if you allowed us to make a presentation and then we get into the questions, because I think we'll answer most of your questions in the presentation. And I think we've put the presentation together in a coherent form instead of jumping all over the place. And then at the end, we'll be certainly happy to answer any and all of your questions.
And my apologies, this does say pre-submission conference. That should really say work session. But we just wanted to provide you with complete information. So if David is going to proceed through this.
No, but I could pick it for you.
It's appropriate.
Okay, so from the beginning, I'm David Gilmartin Jr. I represent Engel Berman, who's a contract vendee and the applicant for this. The property, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the presentation, is a 20.1 acre site that fronts on both Majors Path and Straight Path. It is the former Old North Sea landfill. So this was the town, really was the town dump. And it operated from the mid-1930s to 1963 when it moved across the street to where the present dump is located. It is currently allowed by CO, by the building inspector, to take on organic materials. The contract vendee has made an application to the zoning board to change from one non-conforming use to another. That's from the current operation as with the ability to accept organic materials to a multifamily use. That multifamily use is a 6 unit per acre, which is consistent with the MFPRD. There are 22 residential buildings. There's a 22-story clubhouse and amenities. There's an open space area of approximately 6 acres. And sewage treatment's is going to be an on-site wastewater treatment program. We are looking to convert the use to a productive, consistent residential use and remediate the landfill as per DEC requirements. As I said before, it was the dump, the town dump, and it was previously zoned H industrial, which permitted the municipal dump, and again, operated from the 1930s till 1963. The waste that was brought to that dump still remains on site. Site was never remediated. It is currently an R60 zone. And again, as we started by saying, the pre-existing CO was issued in 2019, and that was upheld by the zoning board in June of this year. We met with the board through Liz Vale of my office in Chick. We established that we would have a pre-submission conference and have
Just
this.
to clarify, we met with staff, David.
Oh, we met with, okay. And today we're
When
here.
was that? Excuse me, when did you meet with staff?
September 22nd, 2020.
So just a few weeks ago.
Yes, that's correct, Jackie.
So you've been designated lead agency. And we're here today just to give you an outline of what it is we're doing. You know, we'll certainly do the same thing at a pre-submission conference, but we want to introduce you to the project and what we're looking to do. Just by way of background, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Engel Berman, but they're a full-service real estate firm. They're well-diversified. They're an experienced developer on Long Island. They have done projects in Southampton. They certainly have the capacity, the ability to remediate the site and construct the project. We've provided 4 of the projects that I think are applicable here that would show you that they are certainly well capable of producing what it is that gets approved at the end of this process. I will turn this over to Chick now to talk about the proposed project.
Excuse me, before you talk about the proposed project, can we go back to the previous slide on the background, please, so I can understand?
This one, Robin?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
I note that there is a pre-existing C of O issued by the Buildings Department that has been upheld, according to you, by the ZBA.
No, it was upheld. It was upheld, not according to me.
No, upheld.
Written decision.
Calm down. I'm just.
Well, there's a lot of interruptions and discussions of things that I don't think are appropriate, and there's a lot of pushback on this, and we agreed to come here voluntarily and provide you background, but.
Can I ask the question? Because I don't.
Sure,
I'm asking
please.
something that's incorrect.
Please.
There's no pushback. I didn't get a chance yet.
Well, I mean, we're challenged on whether we can be here or not right out of the box. So, forgive me for feeling that there was some pushback.
David,
No transparency.
not made to you. The questioning was the promise that we had received from our own planning department to supply us with information. So I have to apologize to you because now I have to get the information from you because I don't have it from planning.
I resent that.
May I ask if the pre-existing C of O before the pre-existing, the 2019 C of O, was the C of O on this for land as a plant nursery?
No, there was no CO issued on this property prior to the 2019 issuance.
So it functioned for many years without a C of O. And
Well, it's obviously it has a pre-existing CO which allowed it to operate as this pre-existing use would allow. If you have a pre-existing use, you are not required to go get a CO for it.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at court papers and unfortunately, that's what I have.
You'll have to identify the court papers.
No, I'm just looking at, in 1997, the facts that I received looking at, this is the appeal, the 2008 appeal from the appellate division. They had in their facts, so I apologize if the facts are wrong here, that in 1997, defendant purchased the acreage and had a certificate of occupancy for use as a plant nursery.
Right.
Can
Can you tell me how you came into contact with that
Yeah,
document?
I went on Google and Justia came up, laws and legal resources, People versus Tehiki. And it's the 2008 New York slip opinion from the appellate division reversing an underlying court action. So I just read that.
Yeah.
I read that for the facts.
The court was wrong there. The appellate division was wrong. There was no CO, and they identified what would be a permitted use under the code, but there was no CO issued for it. The court was wrong.
Oh, okay. Well, see, that's not pushback. That's trying to get facts. So there was never a CO. So 2019 was the first CO that was issued.
First and only.
Okay. And is there any open court cases on that ZBA decision?
Not against Engel Berman. I understand there may be a 78 against the town and Steheki
Regarding that CVO?
regarding the zoning board decision.
Okay. Thank you. That's important information.
David,
I don't-
not challenging the building inspector's interpretation, right?
Well, I mean, that's what the underlying ZBA application that some of the neighbors made was to challenge the issuance of that CO. So I would assume, we're not involved in the litigation. That's against Mr. Steheki. But I assume that the underlying challenge is to the issuance of the CO that was reviewed by the zoning board.
So
Okay.
there is an open Article 78 against the town on this CFO, which you need now and again, I just want to understand, right now, do you have an open submission to the ZBA for a change?
Yes,
And,
that's why we're here today.
okay,
That's the process, that's the application through which you are deemed lead agency.
and when they're waiting for our recommendations as a result of this pre-submission conference?
No, they're waiting for the outcome of the SEQRA process.
This is just a conference. This is this is a work session, not the pre-submission.
No, I know. I'm trying, my problem is that, Christine, is that the last time when this was on and we voted to allow this to be scheduled for a pre-submission conference, I had different information than I have now. And so I am trying to make myself comfortable with my vote and a determination whether I would like to make a motion to recall, because we're now finding out that that there's a contract vendee. I did not realize there was an Article 78 proceeding against the town on the underlying. I'm just finding out information that's making me extremely uncomfortable, and I'm trying to determine as much fact as I can.
Okay.
What did you mean by a motion to recall?
David,
What's the
No,
motion to
wait,
recall?
David, there's an Article 78 pending. Is there a stay pending?
There's no stay pending.
Okay, so there is nothing that prohibits anything from going forward?
To the best of my knowledge, no, but your office has better knowledge of this than I do.
Okay.
Again, we're not a party to that litigation.
So Counselor, can you tell us, is there a stay pending?
My understanding is that there is no stay. So everyone proceeds at their own risk, not on our end, on their end.
Moreover, aren't we still bound by SEQRA timetable?
Good question.
Yes. From my point of view.
Yes.
And those timetables are a lot more stringent than the town timetables. So
We have to,
So can someone explain to me the motion to
Now
recall?
that's in my head right now. It's not anywhere else. I voted 2 weeks ago.
Can I, if I could, you can't make a motion to recall. We've made an application, and as a town, you have an obligation to hear it. It's like you can't recall it.
Well, this is for the process.
What's the process that we're required to have a pre-submission conference?
That's a town process.
Counselor?
And
You are required to, and actually, I mean, just to be honest, I mean, you're having a work session and you've asked them to come and they have agreed to come, but they didn't have to come. So they could have waited until the pre-submission conference, which was already set for the 12th, I think it is, and they can just come in and answer these questions then if you would prefer to do that.
No, I'm trying to get comfortable here.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you.
Information, and
I mean, I can only tell you that denying something because it's a contract vendee, I do not think would be appropriate. It is something that is, I don't want to say routine, but it's not uncommon. And had it been, and I understand you're saying you didn't know, so maybe that should have been made more clear to you so that it wouldn't appear as though something was trying to get snuck by. But it does happen all the time. I don't think it's a means by which to deny something or enable something. And if it weren't done properly, like there wasn't an owner's consent signed and all the paperwork weren't there, the process would not have been deemed ready to go and planning would not have been able to have you even schedule it.
Christine, should we had that as the planning board members?
Not necessarily. You don't get it. Generally speaking, you very often I'm going to put myself on the line here. I'm sure there have been times where it maybe wasn't clear whether it was contract vendee or not, that it's just proceeded through because it's really not generally an issue because it doesn't really matter to the town in that context. As long as the owner is signed off on it, there's an owner's endorsement. It's between the two parties to that contract who the actual person winds up on the hook for it.
I just would think that the planning board in making a determination should have that disclosure made up front.
And you can make, if that's what you would prefer, then you absolutely have the right to say, that's what you want to see from now on, and that should be adhered to, as a policy. That's perfectly acceptable.
typically, Christine, that is revealed to us. This was not revealed 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We just assumed it was Teheki's team and including Chick. So Chick, I just need to clarify in my mind, are you representing Stahiki or Berman?
I'm representing Engel Berman.
Engelberg is the
So this is
applicant.
a-
Really matter? I mean, excuse
Well,
me.
because we didn't realize that this was not forced to Hickey.
Well, they feel like, David, in all fairness, honestly, if they're saying at their word that they didn't realize it was one application being presented in a different way than another, in their minds, they're having a different applicant.
Yes.
So, but if you can clear that up and if they understand it and they're comfortable, then they can proceed.
The applicant here is Engel Berman, who is a contract vendee on the property. There was absolutely no intent to mislead anybody on who the applicant was. We submitted an application where we put Engel Berman on it. We're here today as Engel Berman. The pre-submission conference, which is when we're first regularly scheduled to come in and see this board, is on November 12th. We're here on October 22nd, telling you right now, the applicant is Engel Berman. I hope that clears up any of the misconceptions that may or may not have developed out of the last meeting. But I think it's time to move forward and talk about this application and the factors in it, instead of spending a lot of time talking about who we thought was making the
David, we had to get this
Now.
clarified, okay?
It's
Give us
clarified.
that respect and give us that consideration as a planning board.
I clarified it in the first statement I made in this presentation.
So Sateki is just the seller and
Engel Berman's the purchaser. The Stehecki Living Trust is the seller
And the owner.
and the owner.
And there is no,
Christine, I have to go back, and you're the attorney, I'm not. Go back to the fact that the application is for a change of zoning.
Right.
And there is a lawsuit,
No,
we
no,
believe.
Not a change of zone.
no. Please step in correct when there's incorrect information.
Okay,
Okay.
what is it?
It's a
then?
change.
It's a
the
change from one
application for a change-
non-conforming use to another under a certain section 167 of the zoning
It's
code.
specifically not a change of zone. Change of zones go before the town board.
It's a use change?
No, it can't, it's a
It's
change
the,
from one non-conforming use to another. It's a unique application that's allowed under the zoning code.
Under our town code, we allow it.
Then my question, from a legal standpoint, if there is a lawsuit on the existing use, how can we as a board address changing it when there's a question about its legitimacy in the first place?
There's no question.
I
The
was
zoning
asking
board
that-
has decided, the law of the case is that CO is valid, and this board is required now to process this application.
Thank you, but I was asking our attorney to help
I'm
explain
sorry,
it.
but I answered.
Yeah, he happens to be correct. I mean, if they had asked for, or if anybody had made an application for a stay, then obviously we would be waiting and they have to post a bond when they do that. And there are a lot of other steps that they take. So if they had done that, then we would have to wait because everything is told until such time as that is finally determined. But without a stay, there is nothing that prevents everybody from moving forward.
Okay, so this is a use change, as Gloria's trying to clarify.
Well, it's
No.
not, it's specifically one conforming use to another conforming use. A lot of municipalities, some allow that, some don't. We happen to be a municipality that does. It's specifically allowed in our town code that you can change from one non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. And that's the distinction in terms of it's not a non-conforming use going to an allowable use. It's one non-conforming use going to another.
And the objective of that provision of the code is supposedly to steer non-conforming uses into uses that are more compatible with the surrounding zoning. And that's what we have to examine under our SEQRA review, whether the receipt of organic materials, which is not a composting operation. I thought it was a composting operation, but it's not. It's just a receipt of organic materials is more detrimental or less detrimental than the 120 unit residential project before us.
And one just more process question. At the pre-submission conference, does any clock start?
I believe so. Is Claire still on? I'm not as fully familiar with all the exact timelines as I used to be.
Pre-submission conference will be held on November 12th, and then within 45 days of that conference, a report will be issued. Again, well, it doesn't bind anybody, but you're giving your opinion on the site plan application in that report.
It's not a secret determination at all.
It is not. However, secret determination is out there right now. Planning board assumed lead agency. And per the code, within 20 days of assuming lead agency, you were to make a secret determination. The applicant didn't push that time frame, but it is their right to ask for a secret determination now. But they prefer to have the pre-submission conference process happen so that the issues would be vetted before your secret determination was issued.
So we have 45 days after the pre-submission, after November 12th.
To issue a pre-submission conference report,
I have a
correct?
question.
Dennis,
Question for Claire. In that pre-submission report, Claire, to what extent do we have to address the substance of the actual project site plan as opposed to the nature of the requested variance, of the change in non-conforming use? I mean, we have no idea at the end of the game where this project may fall, whether they're going to get 120 units or 60 units or 12 units, whether the road is going to come in from one direction. To what extent do we have to get that into our pre-submission report?
I think if you have questions, if you think there's too many units because based on other projects that may have been similar, those are all things you can put as question marks. You know, this is an issue. This is an issue. You know, put this up.
And that will
Whether it's
inform-
related to SEQRA or a site plan application.
sorry, these are site plan. You're saying site plan issues, Dennis?
Yes, I mean, ultimately, the end of the secret process might steer us to the avenue that the receipt of organic materials is less intrusive on the neighborhood than 120 residential units. So why are we reviewing a large-scale residential project when we don't even know maybe this organic transfer or receipt station or area is kind of benign?
Can I jump in for 1 second?
A guidance.
I'd like to clear just one fact up and follow up on what Dennis said. This, the CO allows for the receipt of organic material. It is not a composting site with respect to the ability to sell the product commercially, but the material gets composted and used on site. So there's a difference. The material's getting composted. You're shaking your head, Dennis, but
I'll let, I don't want to interrupt, but I disagree.
no, well, that's the distinction, and it's an important distinction, that material is getting composted on site as we speak and has for, since the time that Stehecki has owned this, and that's what's caused the issue there. Now, he can't take it off site, he can't sell it commercially, but he is allowed to compost and then use it on site as part of what he's doing operationally on site.
I think that's the substance of our disagreement, Dave, because
It is, and I would direct your attention to Katie Garvin. She can further educate you on that point. It's been a point of discussion, Dennis. I've had this discussion with her, and that's the distinction that was made in that footnote in the decision, if that's what you're referring to.
we have nothing on the record to that effect. We have a C of O that says receipt of organic materials. Look, if I put a basket of tomatoes on my kitchen counter, I don't have tomato sauce. I have a basket of tomatoes. Composting, by definition, involves additional ingredients, additional process, and most importantly, a permit from the DEC, none of which I see in the C of O. So, I mean, that's going to be, I think that should be the substance of our pre-submission report to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They may have to clarify that, and I don't know the mechanism that can clarify. Did they then turn back to the building department and say, can you clarify, is there composting allowed here or not? Or does this C of O suggest the allowance of composting? I think that's the core issue of this application right now, not where we're going to put the units in the road and the sewage treatment. I don't see it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just to deal with part of it, and I don't, Chick has been the one dealing with the DEC, but to preview it, the DEC has inspected and this site, numerous times, both as for dealing with the existing material on site, which, has been there since the 1930s, and with the current composting site. It's, again, I think we're getting in the weeds on this, but the town has gone after Stehecki, as Robin indicated, took them to the appellate division, right? They've been back and forth on this issue, and this issue has been litigated and decided. I just, talk to Katie Garvin. She's the one that wrote the decision. And it's pretty clear from the way that the code enforcement, the building department, and any other people that were called in as a result of the complaint have dealt with this property. That question's been asked and answered for many years.
Until that word composting appears in the C of O, you do not have composting there.
That's
That could
simply
be-
not.
Unless
Simply not
or our
true.
legal counsel tells us otherwise.
Simply,
what
okay,
Katie
well,
Garvin said,
we'll get your legal counsel to tell you otherwise, but
David, this is why,
getting too deep into the.
David, this is why we needed to understand process. Unless we can start at the beginning, what is the value and the direction of this application, which is about houses and roads, et cetera. We
So
have
the
a
process is, and the
we
process.
have a basic
clear.
issue here.
The process is clear. There's a CO issued. It's a pre-existing CO. We made an application to the zoning board to go from one non-conforming use to another. The ZBA took it in. You took lead agency. We are now going through the SEQRA process with you as lead agency. So the process is clear. If you have questions about what documents mean, we'll address those, and you can address them with your staff.
But David, this conference that we're doing right now, is this a conference for that SEQRA process, or is this a conference for this project that is potentially before us?
So we're dealing with secrets for the SEQRA process.
No,
Right? We're going to come back.
Claire?
If the zoning board
Oh.
grants us, then we come back for site plan.
that's not what it says.
It's not what says.
I'm sorry, again, it could be my confusion. It says, well, maybe that's what I'm confused of, what the afternoon work session, the terminology, I think that's the confusion Dennis is that we're all having as to exactly, is this SEQRA or is this site plan or is this for the ZBA application? Because it says work session for the site plan application for a change from one non-conforming use to another. So I'd like Christine's question answered.
This is
It's
secret.
also SEQRA.
It's SEQRA for
both.
this, for the zoning board
Is
application.
it both or is it SEQRA?
It should be both. It should be both.
My understanding, and
Two
as-
actions are
Right.
going to happen
And
in the
my
next couple months.
My understanding that it was both. And that underscores the appropriateness of it because there is no stay. So they're proceeding as though that they're going to be successful in the action, which they have every right to do. And we are proceeding on a path that where timelines are therefore kicked in if they were to be successful. And we're all going ahead, notwithstanding that litigation, because there is no stay in that litigation. So everybody's doing their function as they should be doing it. They don't have to be here at this point. The only thing they need to do is really be at that pre-submission conference.
So this is triggered by the 20-day secret determination that was made when we took lead agency. I'm just trying to get.
I actually think they extended that. Am I correct, Claire? Or are they within that?
They have not
Oh.
officially extended it. This is
Well, I'm assuming
always
they're going
hanging
to.
this is hanging over my head.
Okay, I'm assuming they're going to
I'm a
do that.
time frame person. I want time frame.
David, you're going to extend that, right?
Yes,
They're going to extend that.
yes.
So,
And
I
that's
mean,
been the
this is-
understanding with Claire.
and the purpose of today, Claire, tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding of the purpose of today is really to get some of those secret issues identified of what that's going to have to be ultimately addressed, but also importantly, is if this project is one that is going forward, it really kind of shapes and informs the project of where you all want to be for the applicant, so they know what they should inevitably come forward with.
Correct. Well, 2 weeks ago, Chick Voorhees gave part of a presentation where we approached him on environmental issues. You know, where's the DEC sign off on this application? Is the land even ready to be developed? What is the process there? And I think, Chick, I'm not quoting you incorrectly when you said that we are in the process, we're working with the DEC, but there's nothing that's finalized here, you know, and the site has not been remediated. And we're looking at a site plan. I don't understand how that can happen. I really don't.
We are in the process of resolving the fact that all of the material from the 1930s is still on site with the DEC. That process will go along at the same time as this process. Frankly, and Chick can speak more to this, we're pretty far ahead in that process. But obviously, we can't do anything until we finish that. And we will finish it with the DEC. We're quite a ways down the road with that process, and it will be done.
But what is your rush with the planning board? Why do you want to go full stop ahead?
Because we have contractual obligations to move this application along.
You have contractual
have an
obligations with your
obligation to
client.
hear it. I'm sorry?
With your client.
I'm sorry, my client has a contractual obligation with the owner.
Was the Stehecki
Hear
Trust?
the application.
Can I just make a point? We're going to lose our council at 2:50.
I'm gonna try and get someone to run in here and just sit while I have to run out and come back at 2:50.
That would be great. Thank you.
I'm sorry, all.
I'm sorry.
I'm actually having fun with this and I hate to leave you. So
I
I'm
hate-
gonna hurry up, go and come back.
We love having you.
I love being here.
So,
You guys want to hear the presentation just so you can understand the project a little bit better, and then we'll do the questions afterwards?
Well, can I just go back to Dennis's point? Somebody please explain to me, because Dennis brings up an excellent point. What is the C of O currently on the property? What does it allow? And what other permitting should have it had to be in effect? What is the C of O? What is it defined as according to code?
It's not a code definition that's on the CO, because it's an unusual use that pre-existed the zoning code. And it says the receipt of organic materials, and then it identifies some of the organic materials that is allowed to be received.
that's what the C of O says?
That's what the C of O says.
And nothing is, so it just is a collecting spot. People come and bring it and put it down?
Robin,
No,
it's
No,
so
it-
short. It's so short. I'll read it to you. I've got it in front of me.
Thank
Pre-existing pre-existing non-conforming use for the receipt of a natural organic waste. Quote, trees, brush, stumps, leaves, and other clearing debris. That's it.
And
That's
is
it.
that what it's being used for?
Yep,
yes.
and
Yep.
has been for some time.
And then what Mr. Stehecki does apparently is he takes that and he composts it and he creates soil that he uses as part of a farming operation.
That's not in the C of O, Robin. That was my point.
Well, thank you. So if we're looking at a change, we are looking at a change from what Dennis read and not from what Mr. Stehecki is doing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I disagree.
Correct.
Council?
You're looking at a change from one non-conforming use to another, whatever that use is. And I know this was litigated and it's still, Katie did like a very extensive thing on it. I can ask her. I mean, this only is relevant in the context, I guess, of a secret determination. But as for what's before you and the potential site plan and this conference, like that's an issue that really isn't germane to this conference.
But aren't we asked to, okay, again, aren't we being asked to give our recommendations on the change of use? But we're,
Sorry, I can't hear you, Robin. What?
isn't there a change of use issue here? And I'm.
You took the lead agency on the one, David, did they took lead agency on one non-conforming use to the other non-conforming use, correct?
Correct, on the ZBA application.
Okay, so, and the non-conforming use is what Dennis read. And then there is a non-conforming use that is in practicality happening.
Bingo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or may happen. It may happen. It may happen.
But that's not, but that's, I mean, that's not exactly it. And it's, what that statement is not reflective of what's happening on the property, right? So the distinction is composting infers a commercial operation. That's not to say that composting is not permitted and not happening on the property, because it is, and it is permitted, and that's what's happening, and that's what you have to consider. And if you look, and I'll provide your records to you, the complaints that have gone on this property by the neighbors about the composting operation that's happening on there. I mean, it's again, it's been asked and answered.
Then you have to augment that C of O, David. Yeah, if that's
But I don't, because what's happening on there today is permitted.
Under what statute?
Under your zoning code, and you've had building inspector on top of code enforcement, on top of everybody out there reviewing it, and you can't show me where he's been accused of operating illegally, despite the fact that he's been composting since 1997.
a question for
What I
Christine.
had trouble for was taking it.
Try and answer, Dennis.
Dennis, go ahead.
The question, Christine, is our board allowed to approach the building department to clarify whether the C of O?
Yeah, that really would not, I don't believe, appropriate. I mean, the building inspector rendered an interpretation. The zoning board is before them. That's what's being litigated right now. I don't really think that would be appropriate.
Who makes that determination? Because the applicant is sort of implying that this C of O conveys additional rights than what we're reading in black and white. They're making that argument. I don't see that argument, and maybe the ZBA, are they the ones that clarify it or approach the building inspector? How does the process
That's
work?
something we can talk about offline.
Can I try and answer that? And I'll follow with Dennis's example of his tomatoes on his kitchen counter. If you, as a private property owner, decide to do composting on your property, is that illegal?
No, but on a commercial scale, it is without.
Right, but that's exactly what I've been saying, Jackie, is that he is not allowed to do it.
He's not selling compost. he's
That's
making
why it's permitted.
It's not
a
leaving his
private property owner composting on his own property for the use on his own property, and that's allowed. That's exactly the point.
He's not permitted to export the compost once it's made. He's not permitted to get rid of the compost.
I believe the DEC, and Chick can weigh in on this, I believe the DEC makes the determination based on the scale, the size between home composting and commercial. Whether it involves, if it goes beyond a certain acreage, then it bumps up into the next category.
Right, this
Dick,
is
can you
20
talk
acres.
about the?
Yeah, we've been in touch with the DEC extensively. They've been on the site, they've conducted inspections, they have not issued any violations. They did ask us to sample the area of composting. We did that, we're preparing to the DEC. Well, I can tell you that when we first approached them, we had a phase 1 environmental site assessment. We scoped out a phase 2, we prepared a work plan that the DEC approved, and that was to supplement earlier sampling that was done on the site. So we did soil gas sampling, we tested the compost area, and we took soil samples throughout the site. We also took groundwater samples.
So, Chick, the question was private composting versus commercial composting. Is there a difference? At some point does it become private to commercial? At what volume? Is there a volume where there's a cutoff?
There are volumes that dictate that. Typically, there's exempt activities, registration activities, and activities covered under a Part 360 permit. I believe this comes under an exempt activity, but we are looking to verify that with DEC. The reason I believe that's true is because they've been involved through this process. There's no violations under Part 360 or registration. And all they've asked us to do is sample the property. Part of that has to do with ash dump area
Having other stuff come out?
that is going to be remediated as part of this project. So we're looking at this as a multi-pronged, environmentally beneficial project to clean up the compost area, either cap or remediate in some way the old dump area, and develop the property for residential use that's consistent with other uses in the neighborhood. So that's really all it comes down to. We're in touch with the state. They've been on site when we sampled. They visited the site a year ago. No violations exist, and we believe we're in full compliance.
So even with his current composting, there's no violations that they've issued on the property. So what he's doing, they're okay with.
Was this a lined landfill site or was that too early?
Totally unlined, Jackie.
Yeah. And it took construction debris as well? It was a full-fledged landfill?
Landfill, it was a town landfill.
So it took C&D, it took all kinds of,
Back then, it took everything.
And it's all still on the ground currently. It's all there right now.
Could be
Nothing was-
radioactive waste.
yeah.
So it's been tested. There's no radioactive waste, Dennis.
Yes, we've heard that before.
Dennis.
It is all on the ground.
We've heard that before.
We wouldn't be here if there were, believe me.
Have they found
I think
Jimmy
it's
Hoffa
helpful.
there yet?
So when we took lead agency, we were in the SEQRA process and we had 20 days to what? To do our scoping? Was that what the 20 days was?
Determination, positive declaration or negative declaration.
And
We waived that 20 days.
We were waiting for additional information.
The
What additional-
staff requested additional information. The challenge to the CO came up, so we waived that 20 days. We didn't put it in writing. We waived it verbally with Claire. Claire has been on top of me to get more information, and that's
what information have you been requested? I'm sorry, I missed that. What are we missing to do the deck?
everything that we're trying to present today, Robin, that we haven't been able to get through at all.
Because to date, you saw a plan just like the conceptual plan, even less information than this. That was basically what was proposed. So nothing
And
else.
that was basically, Claire, that was all the material you had.
Right.
So you didn't submit to planning the information.
Right. Because he had other issues at that point.
We had issues to get through on the challenge to the CO, which would have, if that challenge had been successful, it would have precluded us from coming here or going through with the project, frankly, and we didn't want to waste your time. So we got through the CO process, and we're here now. And we'd like to be able to finish our presentation.
So, yeah, can we move ahead, please?
I'd like to.
Okay, let's do that. I think we've got a lot of our questions out on the table. We can discuss that amongst the board. I mean, we have some process issues, but go ahead.
Thank you. So this, and I'll make this brief. We don't have to cover everything or recover anything. This is the conceptual site plan. North is to the right of the screen. This was prepared by Nelson and Pope. Tom Dixon is with me today. You saw his name before and he's on the screen. And this is submitted to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And it basically has a main site access off of Straight Path, a road through the property, a recreational area in the northeast corner, a wastewater treatment plant in the southern portion of the property, and a large area in excess of 6 acres, probably 6 to 8 acres, or 30 to 40% of the site that will remain open. This is the area of the former dump. That area is being avoided for those reasons. So all of the property is developable. As I said, we have groundwater samples, soil gas samples, soil samples. Nothing has come up that would hinder the development of the property. We have an emergency access to Major's Path. The unit type is what I would call very attractive architecture. You can see the front and the back of the buildings based on this conceptual architecture that will be developed further through the process. We pretty much covered this. It's all of the DEC background that I mentioned before. And we fully expect that we'll go through a SEQRA process that will involve a traffic study. We'll be looking at fiscal impacts or tax revenue, economic impacts or job creation, population, school district population, community services under human resources, along with community character, under natural resources, certainly topography, all the subsurface conditions and water resource conditions you've asked about, as well as ecology. And we'll have a full analysis of land use, zoning, and comprehensive plans. So that's really where we want to be, to go through the process so that you're satisfied and we answer all the questions through a manageable process. And that's really, we didn't mean to take this much time. We wanted to thank you for the opportunity for the work session today. And we want to advance this toward a site plan application. I think we've had a lot of questions and answers, but David Gilmartin, David Berman, Tom Dixon, and I are all here if there are any other questions.
Will you be submitting documentation and DEC reports to Claire for us to read prior to a pre-submission conference?
I don't, I'll have to check with my client on some of those timeframes, but the DEC does take a while to review materials. We can certainly give you an update and it would be similar to this. We can provide more detail if that's appropriate. But there's, you know, again, an orderly process. I will say that the DEC does not weigh in on land use, you know, unless it's something extremely onerous that would prevent land use. In this case, there's really nothing on the property that would prevent residential use. And that is what we're going through with DEC, as well as coming up with a plan to remediate the old ash area.
But there's nothing that we can read, review, go over from what you've received from the DEC? You must have some correspondence.
But that's not your purview. The DEC has its own purview. Your jurisdiction is to do SEQRA, right?
Well, listen, these questions will come up in SEQRA. And we only have 45 days to do that from November 12th.
Well, I think, Jackie,
Well, we could.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I think Claire gave us a preview of what our report is going to be back to the ZBA. It's just going to basically be a whole laundry list of questions and issues that are going to need to be examined through the SEQRA process, through our impact statement. Once we have to go through scoping, and then SEQRA stops while the impact statement is prepared. So the big juncture for us is going to be the scoping of the environmental impact statement.
I don't think you give a report back to the zoning board on this. I think we're conducting SEQRA.
We have to.
The report to the ZBA has been done. You did a report to the zoning board of appeals with lots of questions, just like you're having now. Yes, you have a report. The pre-submission report will be just a pre-submission reports. But it will have the SEQRA information very, with more detail, because you've seen now more information. You have more questions for SEQRA.
Can you send us what we wrote to the ZBA?
I can.
And when
you ask for it, and I will send it to you. Yes.
On the record.
On the record.
You also get the copy of the ZBA decision granting this C of, or upholding the C of O.
Is that Katie Garvin's report?
Yes.
The decision is a decision by the zoning board that was drafted by Katie.
Yes.
And that, do you know when that was issued, David?
It was issued June 18th, 2020.
Okay. I can send that to you also.
That would answer the questions on the C of O that I had.
Okay, so do you want to close this conversation down and get on with the agenda? I think
I would like to just understand what next steps are.
pre-submission conference on November 12th, 6 p.m.
Public hearing on this, correct? The Public,
That's the public.
Public conference, yes.
Do we have other applications on that evening? Because this is going to generate
Yes.
quite an audience.
Yeah, I don't know if Patty's here, but yes, I believe there is a couple other items on the agenda.
For November 12th,
Yes.
we have Oceanside map number 406 and Homeland Towers Watermill.
You can always keep it open.
Yes, we can keep it open. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? So
I would just like to make a comment, hopefully on behalf of the board. David and your team, we, despite all of our questions, we do appreciate your coming in. It was our request, and thank you.
Happy to do it.
Thank you, Phil.
So I'd like to close the work session and go into the afternoon regular session.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Robin, all in favor.
Aye.
Okay, bye. Thank
Well,
you.
Oh,
Take care. Good to
You
see you.
guys, good luck.
Dixon, you are with Chick Voorhees?
I am, yes,
Yeah,
Nelson and
okay.
Pope.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
all right. Going back to the agenda. Our first item is George Hastings.
Yep, I sent an email. That's off the agenda, actually.
Number 2 is off. Moving down, number 3, Rothman Dynasty, Jackie Fenlon, that's yours.
Yes, hello. Give me a moment to pull it up on my screen.
Who should I let in?
This is Rothman Dynasty. Actually, it's Daphne Vaughn, but I don't think she's present because we're just scheduling the hearing. Let me just bring
No,
up.
she's not here.
Yeah, it's just to reschedule the hearing, so she was aware of the meeting. Let me just bring up the.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna share the screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is the Rothman Dynasty. You'll also recall that during the winter and spring, we reviewed the covenant amendment request because there was a no further subdivision covenant on this parcel, which can provide a standard plan of 2 lots. So the planning board, when we concluded the covenant amendment request, did see the value in the open space plan. And basically at the conclusion of that covenant amendment hearing stated that they would, you guys would entertain the pre-application to be reactivated. And then basically move forward with the review. The applicant is aware of the planning board's desire for a cluster plan. So they do have 2 cluster plans that they have provided, which I'll just scroll through quickly. So this is just the resolution to reschedule the hearing for November 12th. But if you'll recall, this is the parcel. They can provide 2 conforming parcels exclusive of the wetlands to the north. And they are proposing a cluster plan to cluster the 2 residences, the 2 residential lots to the south. So this is one of the cluster plan alternatives. Here, which you can see, we would receive a significant amount of open space. And really the only thing that changes here is this line. It is still proposing an access to the 7 Ponds Town Road, which was concern from the highway department that an additional driveway would interfere with the culvert. The applicant has met with the highway department on site under my recommendation. And actually in reviewing the culvert area, they did think that there could be a solution and they could allow for 1 driveway as long as the driveway plan is reviewed reviewed and approved by the highway department. And this is the other cluster plan alternative, which basically is slightly different in this location.
I thought part of our discussion was that we were not, we were opposed to the exit onto Seven Ponds Road, and that they had certainly had an opportunity to come out right on Lower Seven
Yeah,
Ponds.
so that was part of the discussion last fall that we had. So she contacted the highway department because we were basing it based upon their memo. So that will continue to be discussed. So I just wanted to kind of go over the general details of the project. And basically what we're here for today is to schedule a public hearing to reactivate the pre-application.
Okay,
And so
what date are you looking for?
I was looking for November 12th, but in talking to Daphne Vaughn, the representative, she has requested to change that to December 10th.
Good.
Did we get rid of the easement? I'm sorry, I got distracted. Did we get rid of the prevention in the covenant that said you couldn't subdivide? Was that passed?
You didn't take an action on it. You said basically you would entertain that at the final application based upon the cluster plan being submitted. So you're asking to hold off, review the pre-application report to see which plan you would like to move forward with for the final application. And then at the final application, you would entertain the final application and the formal covenant amendment determination at that time based upon a cluster plan being submitted at the final.
Part of the completeness process.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So basically, it seemed like you were comfortable after all the record was presented by the applicant, that you were comfortable in entertaining that application, but did not want to make a determination on that until you saw the final application plan and the cluster plan provided before you.
Okay, this wasn't the one where we couldn't figure out why they had the no.
No, this is the one in Watermill, the one that you were discussing and we couldn't understand what the Suffolk County Planning Commission was entertaining. That was in Shinnecock Hills. And that had a different name, Oceanside Enterprises. Was that?
I'm sorry, I confused the two of them because it was two.
Yeah, they're similar and both represented by Daphne Vaughn.
Yes, okay.
So
This one did not have the Planning Commission.
No.
Okay.
No, this one had some verbiage from the Natural Resources Director at the time and the trustees based upon the jurisdiction of the pond. All of that has been resolved, and she provided that testimony at the public hearings for the covenant amendment. You chose to take no action, but you said we will entertain the pre-application to come back, and we do not want to make an action on the covenant amendment until we see basically the cluster plan moving forward to the final.
And there was no issue with the trustees, correct?
The trustees entered information into the record that they had no objection to the subdivision.
Thank you for refreshing my recollection.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, motion to set the hearing for December 10. Motion by Dennis, second by Phil, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Matthew Anthony Toscano.
Yes, unfortunately, this is off the agenda. I did get revised plans in, but they're missing a significant amount of engineering requirements for Tom to do a thorough review, so this is off.
Okay. Is there some compliance with reducing the size, the number of machines, or?
No, this is Toscano, Jackie. This is a special trade contractor.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Different. Sorry.
Application.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just off, no action.
Okay. Claire, you've got McDonald's, Hamlet of Riverside.
Yeah, I think Anthony, Charles, if you could let Anthony SEQRA in. I think that's his name, sorry. Oh, maybe he's not here. Is he in? He's in? Yeah.
Yes, there.
Urcio.
Yeah, so McDonald's submitted a pre-submission application for a facade improvements. Facade improvements are actually exempt from the pre-submission process because they're type 2 actions. So he needs a full site plan application to be submitted. So there's a number of items on the checklist that were not submitted. He will need to complete prior to you considering this for completeness. So I'm recommending deeming the application incomplete.
So this is the McDonald's as you enter Riverhead, right?
Riverside.
Okay, motion to deem.
I'm sorry, just one quick question. Are these modifications, I guess, similar to what's going on in Southampton. It must be some sort of corporate-wide.
Redesign, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen what they're doing there, but I had seen a previous version and there's substantial changes.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the McDonald's in Southampton Village, they took the roof off. I mean, the place is just ripped apart.
Interesting, yeah.
They got giant fences up and trucks everywhere, even on Sunday working.
Yeah.
That's because sales are going through the roof.
Oh,
Literally.
Ta-da!
Phil. You tried. A little levity, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so motion to deem this incomplete.
motion.
Second by Gloria, second by
Second.
Phil, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Number 6, Anthony, Darcy, and Calderall.
Yep, let me just share the screen.
The extension.
Yep, so this was a lot line change, Newtown Road and Bittersweet in Hampton Bays. 2 existing lots, each with an existing house on it. We did an approval for a lot line change. These are the 2 lots, and they were basically swapping the yards. So this house here is going to
Gets that.
get that, and this house here is going to get this. We did an approval on this. They're just looking for an extension to get the final maps in because they're stuck in health department. This is just the first extension, so it would bring them from November 24th, 2020 until February 22nd, 2021.
21, okay. Motion for the.
Motion.
extension? Motion by Phil, second by Gloria, all in favor.
aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Jackie Harvey Sternberg, there's a year extension. Hello,
Harvey,
Jackie,
say it again.
There she is.
I'm here, sorry.
there you are.
I was talking to my computer, which was me, sorry.
Harvey Sternberg.
Yes,
1 year extension.
so this is a request for a 1-year extension, which would bring them from February 28th to 2021, February 20th, 2021. Would you like to see the plan to refresh your memory?
No,
Okay.
How many, is this the first extension?
This is the first customary extension. They did not ask for it in the spring, given, probably COVID, it kind of fell to the backside. But this was valid until February 28th, 2020. They're asking to do the first 1-year extension to February 28th, 2021.
I think that's okay. I'll move it.
motion by Phil, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, Anthony.
Yep,
Setauket.
Seatuck Cove. Jim Walker from InterScience is here, so if you could let him in, Charles.
And we got this letter today from, this is the law firm handling.
Yeah, well, here, I'll go through it for you. I'll give you all the information.
That's that letter. I couldn't read it, find it. It was, I got a piece in one place and then a thank you and a name on another.
Huh.
It was,
Sometimes you have to download it as a PDF and it comes in.
yeah, I was using my cell phone, so.
Yeah, that's.
I'm gonna go through it for you. So,
Okay.
This is
I
not
don't
an
have a
action that.
Jim Walker.
What's that?
I don't have a Jim.
You don't have Jim Walker?
Charlie, try InterScience.
It's InterScience, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see that either.
Well, that's what it was.
You hear us?
Yeah, he's there.
We're
He's
on.
already in. He's already in.
There he is. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
Okay. All right. So this is just a discussion today ahead of doing the final approval. We have a 4-lot subdivision. This is South Bay Avenue in Eastport. Wetlands down here. We've seen this before. Let me just go to the map real quick. Here's the river, the creek down here. 4 lots, an open space area to propose to be dedicated to the town. The open space area covers basically everything, including the wetlands, portions of the creek, and including the wetlands buffer. It was designed so that we didn't have to put covenanted buffers on the lots. They're being constructed outside of that setback. It's proposed to include a 20-foot wide strip that connects to Bay Avenue. This is along the railroad. And so we had a final hearing recently where we had some comments from the neighbors. This neighbor over here, Diana DeLucia, I believe, who submitted some comments, written comments. The few issues I just wanted to discuss with the board, and that's why Jim is here. We see here the Trails Advisory Board, who previously recommended when we did the pre-app, getting some type of public trail to access the creek. And let me just do it a little bit there. And so they didn't really give a specific location the first time around, only to say that they ultimately would want to have access to the bulkhead down here. So they're recommending, rather than have the public access along the railroad tracks into the open space, they're recommending that it come along the south side here to the existing bulkhead, which is in the location that historically is where people in the near, surrounding neighborhood have been using the site to get to the water. This property owner here submitted information making that similar recommendation that the trail be located south. I believe she even offered to maintain it at the hearing. So that was one issue that we needed to discuss. I know the applicant wants to discuss it with the board. The other side of it is, this property had a subdivision that was approved in the 90s for a 4-lot plan and open space down here. At that time, the location of the access to the creek was proposed on this side, and it subsequently changed. When we had discussions at the pre-application phase, the planning board really wasn't, at the time, seemed more concerned about putting the public trail access adjacent to the residential lots. I felt that it would be better located over here. The trustees, who have not given us written comments yet, they're probably not going to be here till next week. But based on my discussion with Eric Schultz, he seems to think that their recommendation is going to be to keep it along the railroad tracks and then access, to the creek down here through the open space. So we have that difference between the Trails Advisory and the trustees. So we'll have that discussion. The other issues I think that we want to discuss is the building envelopes. The building envelopes on the subdivision map. The lots are roughly 40,000 square feet. A few of them fall just short of 40,000 square feet. This is a cluster plan. The lots show R20 zoning setbacks. And we just wanted to confirm that the planning board was okay with that. The one lot that sits in the front here is 40,000 square feet, but they do show the R20 setbacks, not R40. So that was one issue. Another issue I wanted to discuss with the board. From the adjacent property owner, just to give you the information that she submitted, sort of showing the location where the access has basically been used by the public for a number of years. Aerial showing its location. And then showing the old map that showed the 4-lot subdivision, the open space down here like we have now, and then a strip of land on this side of the property.
But that was carved, the old version was actually carved out of those lots, right?
What was that, Jackie? I'm sorry. I didn't.
The access trail on this old map was carved out of the lots. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it looks like here. That it was carved out as a separate trail access.
Part of the old.
And at the time in the 90s, it looked like it was going to go into a homeowners association. And again, these are just some sketches that the adjacent property owner provided us showing the parkland going on this side of the property. And then the approval showing the submission of the homeowners association and documentation and easements that would establish the open space. But that plan never came to be. And the applicant basically came in with a similar plan, with a cluster plan, with the access on this side of the property. So I wanted us to have that discussion with the board to see what direction they wanted to go in. And I know the applicant is here. The owner submitted a letter, which I sent to you, and maybe you weren't able to read it, so I'll quickly go through it. This is from the owner of the property, and I had sent an email to Jim Walker, the applicant's representative, just identifying some of these issues that we should be prepared to discuss for today. And the applicant submitted a written response to what I said. Basically, they're not, at this stage of the game, I'll just give you the summary, they're not really inclined to provide the trail on this side of the property, and they really don't want to adjust the building envelopes. I know the one neighbor here wanted to see if they could adjust the building envelope to sort of push the building envelope as far away from the house as possible. I believe
Can we see
building
the
envelope.
plan?
What's
Show-
that?
show
I
us
don't
the
know.
plan.
I'm not sure what happened to it. Hold on one second.
Disappeared?
Huh. I just had it. So
It was
strange.
right there, yeah.
I'll get one for you, Anthony.
Yeah, if you could, Matt, that would be helpful.
So if you go down the railroad track for the trail, where do you
Sure.
cross over the open space? through the
So
road?
basically, I wish I had the map up, but basically it's like a flag lot. So the open space is like a flag lot that covers all of this area back here. The strip comes down and then basically comes down here. And then, the open space is here. So
Would you need an elevated walkway to get through that wetland?
I don't necessarily think so. Marty's office didn't seem to make that recommendation. And I know like I said, I know the applicant's here to discuss, the location of this this trail and what their recommendation and what they're willing to do with the board, and then see where we go with it.
Anthony, I have a question.
Sure.
Anthony, if you stop the share, I'll pull up the map.
Okay.
Oh, that would be good, yeah.
Ta-da. Can everybody see that? Yeah.
Perfect.
That's good, thank you.
Anthony, this is a cluster map. Why are the dog legs for the rear lots 20 foot wide?
Up here?
Yeah, no, the dog legs for the lots 3 and 4. Why are they 20 feet wide?
That's how it was proposed.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was their drawing, but we could bring them down to 10-foot access, right? Because we're only proposing a 20-foot wide common
Yeah,
driveway.
we absolutely can. Yeah.
Because if we were inclined to put that access on the south side, that would be 10 foot right there. That you could move the lot over 10 feet, right?
You could, and then this, the Trails Advisory Board was recommending only 15 feet wide. They thought was sufficient to provide the public access. So,
10 foot. Because
so
cluster map, right? You can go 10 foot wide.
yeah. What I was saying was the Trails Advisory Board was recommending that the trail access only be 15 feet wide, not 20 feet. So you could decrease the size of the flag strips, and you could decrease the size of the strip to provide access to the open space to 15 feet wide.
Now, if they kept that open space in an HOA privately, they could block access, right? They could preclude access.
And that was part of the discussion that we had at the pre-application, which was, sort of a different position than what happened in the 90s. But, you did at the time, Dennis, you raised the question, we had the discussion about if it went into a homeowners association, can we mandate that the public have access through it?
We can't.
And so the applicant came back and offered the dedication to the town.
So, I mean, that might be the trade-off here. If they put it certainly makes more sense to put it on the south side and follow the Trails Advisory Board recommendation. But at the same time, they could then say, okay, we'll put the access there, but there's no public access.
I can address all those issues, Dennis, if you would like.
I couldn't hear you. What?
I can address all those issues if you would like, Dennis.
Okay, I'm done.
We have no attorney here. You're dealing with me. I represent this guy. The project was brought to this office by Burke and Sullivan. Burke and Sullivan have not been actively involved, and I was asked to take the project and get it approved. we've been dealing with Anthony and the health department and all those regulatory agencies since. It's important to know that this project was approved prior as a standard subdivision with no open space. And then the project was never pursued. So the guy came back to the town and he met with the town, specifically with Kyle Collins, and was advised that we should submit open space subdivision. And in turn for providing the open space that's needed, that they should propose R20 zoning. So that's what you have in front of you is R20 zoning. The property has 4.2336 acre open space. That's 57% of the property. So it has a considerable amount of open space. And in all due respect, regarding Eric Woodward and the Trails Committee, I've been processing subdivisions for 36 years. Cluster subdivisions were originally brought around in 1984. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony. It's about the same time that I started work at this office. When you do a cluster subdivision, what you do is you provide big chunks of open space. You also push the residential development next to the other residential development. And why do you do that? So you have big open space areas that can be used by wildlife. That is generally the concept with open space subdivisions. Putting a nature trail between one lady's house and a 4-lot subdivision is a mistake. I don't think it's a good idea, period. I don't think that in general, we see the planning board doing that in the town of Southampton, in New York State in general. Also, Dennis, you brought up a nice idea that at the public hearing, which at the public hearing, the people who were adjoining spoke their piece and that was fine. But putting a nature trail down the middle of a common driveway easement is also a planning error. We do not see that happen often. Basically, when you have a nature trail, you want people to be walking down a path and enjoy the property. So you come down the north side of the property, it goes from 28 feet to 6 feet. It drops gradually. If you've been on the property, it used to be a duck farm, used to be a poultry farm. The property is wide open. There's a nice meadow with switchgrass and little blue stem. And envision a trail that goes right along the railroad track right away and goes across the property to where the people always went. That there isn't a hardship here for the people. The neighbors can get to the property the way they always did, and they can go sit at the bulkhead. There are chairs and seats down there, and the people have been using this property for open space for years. So can they enjoy the property? Yes. Can the subdivision be implemented and work? Yes. There's one error on the plan that access for the 4 lots needs to be eliminated. I think Dennis, you brought that up. Probably not a good idea to drive a path across the town on open space, period. So the people in this subdivision should also use the nature trail. So we can revise that, and we can put a nature trail on the north side of the property and connect to the old place where people sit out on their chairs and enjoy the water. If you look to the south from this property, it's open water. This area up here is wetlands, but it is mostly common reed wetlands, and there is no environmental problem with crossing the meadow uphill of the wetlands. But one thing that the board needs to be aware of, and I didn't address this issue at the public hearing because it's contrary, and we like to avoid conflict the best way we can. This lady would not let us access her property to find the well. So fine, I went there and knocked on her door. We sent letters, then we sent certified letters. Then I went and knocked on the door. During the COVID-19 thing, she had someone living at her house to watch the house. She was quarantined in the Philippines. And the lady said that she would come back at some point. So I went back a couple months later and knocked on the door and I spoke to her. She was very friendly, very nice, but she was very adamant that she was not going to let us on the property, period, to find her well. Okay, so what do? I went to Bob Smith, Squires and Holden. This is an honest story. I'm an upstate person. I am honest to a fault. Bob Smith told me they could not do the map change. There wasn't room. So I went back to the office. I explained to my boss, the project sponsor is screwed and he can't get out of this problem because the surveyor says can't get out of the problem. And my boss said, go downstairs and fix it. So I went downstairs, we redid the property lines. And if you look carefully on the map, it's not very exciting stuff, but we have 150 feet from the sanitary system on lot number 1 to her property line. That is the only way we could get the health department to approve the map. That took me about 12 months. It took me from roughly late last year to the time the health department was issued, and then we came in with the final plat. So it's a little disingenuous to keep sending stuff into the planning board relative to side yards. The guy who buys lot 1 is going to end up with a house further north than he would probably want to, because the sanitary system has to be separate by 150 feet. That being said, if the planning board had some idea on side yard setbacks for lot number 1, or for that matter, some real practical change for a map, Anthony can tell me and we'll get the map revised. But this project's been approved
Jim,
by the health department.
my question, Jim, is rather than applying a different zoning standard, because I hear what you're saying with the building envelope, is it possible to, rather than adjust any lot lines or anything, simply switch the larger side yard setback, which is over here, put it on this side, and then put the lesser setback on this side?
Any reasonable map change is fine, but we can't go back to the health department. Anybody who's processing health department applications can tell you they're all remote. There's a COVID-19 problem. Everything is very convoluted. Anthony, could we make a modest change to a map? Absolutely. I go over to see Bob Smith. He changes the map. Planning board's happy. The lady will feel less affronted by Seatuck Cove Estates, and a nice nature trail can be installed, and it can lead to the old nature trail, and it's going to go across Switchgrass Meadow. This is a pleasant little place to walk. It's an old duck farm, but all parts of the duck farm are gone. They're long gone. You can't see anything here except a little bit of trash that is left by the local neighborhood. This piece of property is a bunch of scrub cherry trees, and they're going to put in 4 lots, and it's going to be pleasant. And yes, we have a map that needs a little bit of revision because a pedestrian easement across an open space parcel is not something I've seen before. They asked me to do it. The lawyers asked me to do it when I filed for the final map, so we can remedy that. We can remedy the side yard setback on lot number 1, and we can put a nice nature trail down the north side of the property, and the people that live there can continue to live. And the cluster subdivision goals, which is to put residential properties next to each other on smaller lots and preserve a large block of open space, will be met, period. We don't need to have a nature trail in between Diane DeLucia and Seatuck Cove Estates. I think that's a real mistake. I also think a nature trail down the middle of a common driveway is not a wise idea. Nobody wants people walking next to their house. If it's a nature trail, however, and they're walking alongside the railroad where the property goes up sharply outside of the property, they're not going to go into the property, and they're not going to go out of the railroad. They're going to walk down a nature trail and follow a trail with signs and go over and sit at the bulkhead. They probably can go fishing there. You could catch snappers there, for instance. There's a lot of mallard ducks there. Probably duck hunters would rather get access to the property than anybody else. But the locals could still go there, they could still enjoy it, and they have 57% open space, 4.2336 acres preserved, which I believe was the intent of the town when they told the project sponsor to come back with an open space subdivision. And
Okay.
that way we just go ahead, we get finished, the map doesn't change much, we make some refinements to make the neighbor a little happier, and we make the planning board review functional and helpful, and we finish with this project.
Jim, are your clients going to create the trail along the railroad tracks?
If you give them approval, that's a question, Dennis. If you give approval, we'll drive a 4-foot wide path along the north side, staked and mulched.
I think the trail along there into then coming down and going across the meadow is a very good solution. I agree that I think it's problematic to have it along the property lines,
Yeah,
no matter how we slice it. So
I agree.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So any other comments?
I think, Jim, if you could maybe just prepare just a sketch or a plan, you know, how we like to get things into the record of what that trail will look like, just a cross section. And I would route it to avoid any type of large trees. You know, it could sort of meander through. It's going to be a 4-foot wide mulch thing, okay?
We'll have a nice time doing that, Dennis.
Oh, that's a perfect project for you, Jim.
Just the kind of stuff that we typically do.
That you like to do.
That little pedestrian easement across the town-owned open space is a mistake. And we're gonna have that taken off. Anthony can help me with the side yard next to Diana DeLucia. And the planning board will get what they wanted, and the project sponsor can go on his merry way, and we don't have to talk to attorneys.
Okay, so you're going to do some map changes, and Anthony, are we having this on in 2 weeks for approval?
Yes, we'll have, actually, I've got to do and I wanted to work this all out. I've got to do the 292 referral so we can issue the wetlands permits with the approval. So I'll do that now, and then we'll get it on the next available agenda for approval.
Does this have to go to the county?
What's that?
Does this have to go to the county planning commission?
I think it did, actually.
Oh, it did, okay.
Yeah.
Just make sure they're.
We got an application in before the final. We're at final now. It's time for Anthony and I to bump heads and collectively resolve the planning board concerns.
Great.
Good.
Okay, so there's no action on this. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks,
Thanks
Jim.
a lot.
Take care.
Yep.
So Anthony, you have the next one, Jacqueline Cressy
Yeah, Wayne Bruin asked for an adjournment on that one, so
to,
the next meeting.
Oh, didn't we adjourn once already?
Yes, that was at the applicant's request.
We have to
okay,
take
so
a,
this is to November, what are we talking, 12th?
12?
do we have to act on that, Anthony?
No.
No?
No action on that?
No.
It's not an extension, so we don't have to act on it?
Let me just, now that you say it, you know what, Jackie?
He's right. You don't need an extension. You just need to put it on the record.
Okay, good. That's all. Thank
So
you.
it's on the
Thank you,
record,
Claire.
The attorney's request to move it to November 12th.
Yep.
Okay, number 10, 12 Foster LLC.
Well, Foster,
Matt,
I also got a letter from Wayne's office. They are still working with Squires and getting those maps. They haven't got any revisions that we've asked for.
So is this an extension?
We are on action deadline for this for today, so I did prepare a resolution to extend it to November 19th.
November
19th.
19th, is that our next session?
No, this is in November. We have two.
Two.
Oh,
Yeah, back to
two side by side because of
Side by side.
Thanksgiving.
You just requested
Yeah.
to go to give them some,
Right.
a little more time to hopefully get those
Okay.
plans.
So a motion to
Extend the action deadline.
extend the deadline to November 9.
19th.
19th. Motion?
Motion.
Phil, second by Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Good. Hey, Matt, can you stick around in case I have a share screen problem?
Yes, I'll be.
Appreciate that.
Bola, EM Realty.
Yeah. Let's see. Bola. So everybody remembers this project. It's been around for a while. Corner of Montauk Highway and Terrace Drive in Hampton Bays, right across the street from the Bordy Barn, an existing gas station. It was a Hess, I think it's a Mobile now. Applicant proposes an accessory convenience store for which they've gone to the Zoning Board of Appeals. They were there also for some relief from one parking space and then for some signage. We're not dealing with the signage in this approval. We're going to do that at a separate resolution because I wanted to look at the signage separately with the board. So I did a staff report and a resolution. Here we go. We got, there was a site plan, again, in the corner here, residential zoning surrounding the property. They did get relief from the rear yard as well to allow, I believe, 44 feet where 50 was required. Got the Bola Market. They had made some changes to the architecture based on our pre-submission conference. I have a report here that went through the issues. The first part of it just went through the history of the property when it first became a gas station in the 60s and the various zoning actions over the years into the 70s. The property's basically been operating as it was per the CO in 1978. The application is to remove the center kiosk and for the construction of a 1,200 square foot convenience market and the parking. The planning board did a pre-submission conference report for this back in November 8th of 2018. And the project has largely been revised to address the issues raised, including elimination of the additional pumps.
How many were there, Anthony? How many?
There are 4 pumps there, 4 pump stations, and they were proposing 8 at the time. And so we raised the issue about the expansion of a non-conforming use, and they've eliminated the pumps. The size of the convenience store was 2,000 square feet initially. The planning board raised the issue that, in your opinion, that was too large. It qualified as a second use, not accessory. So they reduced the size to 1,200 square feet and went back to the zoning board with that application and was successful. Eliminating of the signage on the west elevation. There had been some signage proposed here and that was eliminated. So that was another item. And again, the changes to the elevations, which we looked at. We had a public hearing in August and no public comments were received at the hearing or during the comment period. This is an unlisted action and a negative declaration was actually issued by the ZBA back in February of 2019. They were the lead agency on that. Again, the ZBA granted the necessary relief or the approval to allow the accessory convenience store along with the 1 parking space. They did condition that the canopy has to remain in existence and that there be no additional expansions on the premises, which I didn't include actually in my resolution that I did for the board. So we would just have to revise that. The engineer did comments and by each sheet just identified the items that need to be addressed. And obviously they would need to be addressed and get stamped approved plans before we could sign off on the site plan along with the fee. He's not recommending approval of the engineering at this time. So they will revise the plans. We get it to the engineer and then the engineer will stamp them approved. Office of Fire Prevention, aside from the standard recommendations, there was no specific fire protection devices required. Department of Public Works approved the project and indicated that a highway work permit would be required, standard. Suffolk County Planning Commission referred to this as a matter for local determination. The Hampton Bays Fire District had no further recommendations. And the town ARB approved the project in August of this year, but advised that the signage would have to go back to them for approval. And that's why I kept it as a separate issue, is that we'll look at the signage separately. There was a lot of variances that were granted for various signs, so I figured it'd be easier to do it as a separate resolution. So the issues, like I said, a lot of them had been addressed after the pre-submission, but one of them was the parking space in front of the existing dumpster, which I think sits over here. It's the space here. I raise it. It's an existing condition. The parking is an existing condition. So I think I recommend potentially relocating it. I think it's going to be really hard on this property. So the applicant was going to talk to the board about that, maybe limiting it to employee parking or timed parking. That might be the way to deal with it. Compliance with the engineering comments on the final map and the HVAC and mechanical systems to be hidden, not visible to adjacent properties, and that all signage is subject to planning board and ARB approval. The lighting plan actually indicates the lighting, LED lighting, to be 3000 Kelvin, so that's good. The canopy lighting shall be flush mounted, which is a typical requirement. Again, I don't think there's any new lighting proposed for the canopy, but I just wanted to put it in there just in case. Again, the installation of dusk dawn fixtures not permitted. No additional lighting without planning board approval, and all lighting shall be shielded, directed downward. The landscaping plan, I said, should be revised to do street trees along Montauk and Terrace Drive. The landscaping as it exists now is actually really nice, and they are augmenting it a little bit back here, a little bit back here, but the existing planting on the site's actually really nice. It's in good condition. What I was recommending is a couple street trees, maybe 2 in here, 1 in here, and a couple along Terrace Drive. I think will just go a long way to further enhance the streetscape. So that was a recommendation for the landscaping. And the architecture, I said it was generally addressed per our previous comments. I would suggest, though, that this is the wall facing, I think, terrace. So I recommended that a treatment window or something. So it's
Lattice work.
that's something, yeah, some type of architectural feature,
Yeah.
correct, to address that. So those are basically the issues that I identified in the staff report. And then I did a resolution of approval. And I incorporated all those conditions actually into the resolution. I'll just quickly go through it.
The ZBA condition as well? You include.
I have to add that in there, Jackie, actually. So under the general conditions of approval, I will add the ZBA conditions in there. So again, we just have a few changes to the site plan that we went through. I do say in here, I should note, I would recommend that we have a no left turn onto Montauk Highway sign out here.
Right.
So I did add that actually into the resolution. It's 1 way in, 1 way out, which is good. 2-way onto Terrace, better to come out here to make a left turn. So I would recommend the no left turn sign. Changes to the building elevations, again, a window or lattice work or some other design element on the elevation facing terrace. They should note the color of the roofing material and submission of a floor plan, a final floor plan. Changes to the landscaping plan, again, the street trees that I recommended on both roads. The general conditions of approval, all future signage shall be externally illuminated, shall be reviewed and approved by the planning board. The HVAC system shall be screened. The prohibition.
The mechanicals look pretty exposed, no?
On the one, I think on the, let's see.
The elevations, they're all coming.
They are on the one side. They were, this, it was the side, I believe, actually, that's going to be hidden by the existing dumpster area and everything. So I didn't really raise it as an issue, but you're right, Jackie, they are exposed. So
yeah, they could put some of that bamboo type fencing around it, or
okay, yeah, that's no problem. It's in there, so that's good. This HV and mechanical systems to be screened. The dusk to dawn fixtures, no additional lighting without approval, shielding the lighting downward, attaining approvals from DPW and the highway department as may be applicable, compliance with the DPW and any ADA requirements that they have, the pre-construction meeting with the town engineer, submission of the engineering fee, the affidavit, the 6 plans for signature, and then a maintenance bond for the landscaping. And I believe the applicant's representative is here as well.
Anthony, I got a
Any
question.
questions?
Okay, got a question?
Anthony, do you know, I didn't see the aerial. Is there a divider on Terrace? Is that a divided road up there?
It is.
It is a divided road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
it is.
I'm just trying to work out the mechanics of someone from the Tiana Shores. It's quite a large community internally behind this. If they're coming in there to use a gas station, convenience store, how do they get back to their house?
Let's see here.
They gotta drive all the way around, no?
Well, they can't go to Montauk Highway. They can't make a left turn. They
So they
can't
have to
make,
loop internal loop, no?
they can't make a left onto Terrace because it's divided. In other words, it's one way. It's one way in and one way back, right?
Gotcha.
I don't know. Do you have an aerial handy?
I'll pull it up, Anthony.
It's an odd configuration, that driveway.
Anthony?
I got it.
Maybe there's a cut or something.
But I lost it, Matt. You got it for me?
Yeah, just exit the share.
Okay.
Give me 1 second, guys.
Mr. Ullman, are you for this application?
I am, Madam Chair. How are you? Good to see you.
Just give us your name and affiliation for the record.
Yep, David Altman from the Law Office of Brown, Altman and DeLeo LLP, 538 Broad Hollow Road,
Thank
Suite
you.
301W, Melville, New York,
Thank you.
for the applicant. I believe the condition that the board is referring to with that sort of grass median right at the entrance of Terrace and Montauk Highway has long been since an existing condition, as is the curb cut on the station on Terrace. We're not proposing any changes there.
There it is.
Function for the better part of 50 plus years. So.
Okay, so it looks like the median is past where the
That's it. Yeah.
past the entrance of the gas station.
Yeah, it's
That's
north
correct.
of the entrance.
Oh, okay.
Who owns that?
The town. It's in the town right away.
Town rights in the town right away.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
If I may just make a couple of comments based upon the report that was given by Mr. Trezza. So we've had the opportunity to review the comments from planning as well as the draft conditions of approval. And I discussed with Anthony yesterday, we don't have any issue with those conditions per se. The one comment Anthony and I did discuss, and Anthony duly noted, is the which happens to be an existing condition, is the parking stall that is located in front of the dumpster enclosure. It is really just not feasible given the dimensions of the site and the existing and proposed layout to move that space. So in discussing with Anthony yesterday, we had offered to sign that particular spot and mark it as employee only. That way, there's no issue in terms of moving a vehicle when trash pickup will occur. And given the fact that this is a relatively small convenience store, we're anticipating trash pickups done at off-peak hours to probably no more than twice a week, and possibly less in the off-season, non-summer season. So that should eliminate any issues with vehicles parked in the space.
I think you might have a challenge with that. As I remember that station, isn't there a vacuum and a tire filling station right there as well at that parking spot?
Let me take a look at the site plan. There is vacuum and air there right now.
Right.
Again, as it being marked with an employee space, I understand your comment. We can certainly slide that a little bit if we need to, a little bit north along that lot line to move it away from the space.
Okay.
All right.
Good catch, Phil. You must go in there.
Yeah, we can, I think we can slide that a little bit south, a little bit north rather, along that same lot line.
If I had $1 for every time I've gotten gas there, I could afford gas there.
So you'll make that adjustment, Anthony, in the report?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Madam Chair, I'll just note that when we appeared before this board back on, I believe it was August 13th, we did a pretty thorough review of what was proposed, and I'd like to think that this application was fairly well received. So, and it was also well received by the ARB as well.
Yeah, the building is attractive.
Yep.
No, Bola does a great job, and and I think Anthony pointed out a real gold star aspect of what Bola does for their sites in terms of the landscaping, and that is Bola provides year-round seasonal landscaping, so you're going to see changes winter, spring, summer, fall of the on-site landscaping, and we certainly have and welcome the addition of street trees to further enhance.
Great, thank you. Okay, should I have a motion to adopt this report? Motion by Robin, second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor and 1 absent. Claire, the Hampton Bays, Grabeski.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Hampton Bays Business District, this is number 5215 Rogers Way.
Right.
We discussed this at the last meeting. You had asked just about hiring a traffic consultant to review the traffic information provided by the applicants in the previous review.
Right.
You'd asked for adding MPV to that list, and thinking about it, we typically do ask for 3. So I asked for 3 estimates. You'll see 1 from Dunn, 1 from MPV, and 1 from McLean. Yes, I'm sorry, and I will bring it up. I can share the screen and I'll bring them up. I did email them to you.
You did.
The price was dramatically different.
Yeah, that's true.
From all of them.
That does happen.
$1,500 to $8,000.
Yep. Yeah. So Nelson Pope was 8,000. This is McLean's. That was about 4,400.
4,400.
And Dunn was about 13 or 14. Yep.
What I liked about McLean is that they say that their traffic engineers are in the process of reviewing similar warehouse distribution facilities to the one proposed here for the towns of Islip, Brookhaven, and Oyster Bay. So I have a sense that they've had some experience with these large distribution warehousing. I don't know if anybody, I mean, I read through them. Nelson Pope does a great job, but that's 8,000 at the high end. Anybody else have any thoughts?
Dunn actually also mentioned that they have also reviewed them too.
Who did?
Dunn also mentioned, not in the report, but to me, that he also reviewed it. Yes. The large distribution centers.
Can you opine on the huge differences in what they think the cost will be?
I couldn't even say.
Right. Well, I don't know. Did anybody else read these? Does anybody else have a thought?
I read them also. It was like it was different scopes. I couldn't understand the differential from 8 times. It just seemed.
Didn't we get feedback from either Tom Neely or the town engineer? We're better equipped to evaluate these proposals.
We haven't, but we can. That's a good thought. Have them take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I just got them yesterday. I was trying to get them
Do we have to make a decision
faster,
today,
but-
Claire? Do we have to decide today, or can we hold it off for 2
You
weeks?
do not, the applicant, I'm sorry, I should have said this before. Can you let Kristen McCabe, she's the applicant's representative. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you.
And we can talk to her. At this point, I'm actually recommending deeming the application incomplete, not only for this, because you want to verify that the site and the project is consistent with the original SEQRA that was done on the project, but also because they don't have the required town engineer information. And I had attached their comments. They recommended that it being
lots of them.
So if she's willing to give us a couple weeks to just make sure that the you know, the proposals are consistent with verifying it with Tom, then, you know, I think we'd be fine with that.
The other thing that McLean did is they talked about the length and size of the trailers, you know, that qualifying highways allow 65 feet in length and vehicles 53 feet trailers. But since County Road 31 is not designated as an access highway and the site is more than a mile from Sunrise, this could be a concern. So I thought that was a very interesting.
So they already took a look. They were already starting to
They
analyze.
already looked,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
right,
that's
exactly.
interesting.
Exactly.
Kristen's here if you want to hear what she has to say.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Hi, Kristen.
What I have to add is just that we're anxious to get this project going and under review. I do understand that the traffic engineer will need some time, so we were hoping at the last meeting that it would be able to be referred at that time. So to wait another couple weeks wouldn't be ideal, but you know, it is obviously.
Because we do have a process, you know, we can't just pick one willy-nilly, so.
Understood.
So
Want to leave it where if Tom Neely feels that the, you know, they're all consistent with the scope of the project, we could just choose the one with the least amount of money?
No, I don't think that that's necessarily the best. Sometimes you get what you pay for.
But again, we're verifying, this is a verification that the information is consistent with the original SEQRA. So this is not a complete,
No, I understand.
you know, relook.
But there are a lot of vehicles here, what, over 300?
Right.
They're turning.
So it's a matter of, again, verifying that the information.
And there are turning radiuses to look into. So I think that's part of what a traffic engineer is looking at. So shall we leave it that Tom will take a look at it and come back with a recommendation to us? Okay, is everybody comfortable with that?
Well, here's my concern when I looked at it for the first time, and I think I said this. I mean, this to me looks like either an Amazon or a FedEx situation. And again, I go by that intersection and that stoplight all the time, and I can conceive of moments in the morning and the afternoon when you're literally going to have 100 to 200 vehicles trying to exit and enter that at the same time.
Right. I think that's a very valid concern.
That's a lot of traffic on that 2-lane highway. It's a 2-lane highway right there.
Yeah.
And I think that bears some watching.
Yep. So does Neely often do this? Is Tom Neely, is this something that he does?
We had never asked him to do this before.
Uh-huh.
Can I ask?
We don't have a traffic engineer of our own, so.
We do not.
Who did the earlier traffic study on this?
MPV.
And Nelson Pope and Voorhees. They did a very excellent job on the CVS traffic report.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm just asking because since they did the other one, but
they did it for the applicant, right?
Yeah. So they're familiar with it.
Yeah, and they're the most expensive.
I know.
Which if in some ways having the same company is a good thing, but having a new pair of eyes can also be very valuable, which is why I think we went down this road.
Right.
An excellent point.
Right. Well, we do have low, middle, and high.
Yeah.
I don't know that we base it on cost, but I think we can base it on people who have experience with this kind of facility. And as Phil said, this is the size of an Amazon
warehouse.
It could well be an Amazon. So,
Kristen, did you have a recommendation? I'm just curious what the applicant feels.
I don't. I mean, I personally kind of expected the traffic consultant who had done the SEQRA, but it doesn't. Yeah. They did the SEQRA work for the town, but then Claire had mentioned Dunn was a local company. So, you know, that seemed to make a lot of sense as well. But again, it is just a verification of an extensive amount of traffic analysis that had been done. This is an industrial park. It was built with the intention of being able to handle truck traffic, but again, we're just anxious to get the process.
I think, as you hear, our concern is the road
Absolutely.
itself, as it's not a major highway that comes out of there. It's a 2-lane road, so we have to be able to get some analysis that that's a properly built road to handle the traffic.
Yep. I mean, I would request that the board, make the decision for the traffic consultant today, if at all possible. We did get the completeness review from the engineering department, so I know that Tom had already previously looked at the plan, and we're working on making those changes so that they can be resubmitted, and hopefully the application can be deemed complete, and then we can do all of the referrals. So
well, does the board feel comfortable in picking one of these 3 now, or do we want to have somebody take a look-see? Anybody have a thought?
I hate to delay, as you know, because I'm just that way, but I just think in this particular case, it's worth having another independent set of eyes like Tom Neely or someone with some experience on this, because that road is going to become a shooting gallery of trucks going in excess of what the speed limit there is right now?
40?
50.
Oh, wow.
And and you get a couple of hundred trucks and vans going 50 miles an hour. It's
right.
not
Okay,
good.
so
At the very least, Jack, and maybe Janice could weigh in. She did all the work on the project.
Right.
So I'll get some feedback from Janice and Tom Neely.
Okay.
And we'll bring it up for a decision on November 12th, whatever that is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kristen?
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Good plan.
And maybe by that time, then, we can have some.
Sorry, Kristen, but it's a matter of, in my mind, public safety and yours as well.
Yes.
Oh, Claire, you know who's been helpful in the past when I've had traffic analysis is Tom Houghton.
Okay.
He looked at them too and helped me with some smaller ones.
Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Thank you, Kristen, for coming in.
And then I'm deeming the application incomplete.
Incomplete. Motion to deem the application incomplete. Motion by Gloria, second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Number 14, moving on. Jackie, you've got
13.
old file maps here.
No, CVS, number 13.
Oh, sorry.
Could you,
Oh,
Charlie?
I didn't take a vote on the incomplete? What?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
No, we did.
CVS.
But CVS is the next one.
Oh,
That's-
CVS. Okay, sorry. I had it checked for some reason.
She just wanted to skip it.
No.
It's another traffic issue, so.
Right. It was a very excellent traffic report, I thought.
So if you can let Elizabeth Vale, which you got her,
She's
and
there.
then I think Carrie
She's there.
Farrell and Barry, Barri also. And then Liz, you had
Dan Winkleman and Jason McCroot from VHB, please.
Do we have anybody from NPV here, Claire?
yes. Chick is here. I don't know if he's going to speak, but Carrie O'Farrell is coming also.
Okay, so let's just see who is who. Curcio is not this application.
No, he's been there for ages, and I don't.
Yeah. And Kristen is not part of this application.
Hello? Yeah, there was supposed to be a discussion about the battery code. Is that still going to be occurring today, or has that been adjourned to another day?
About the what? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Sir, that was on the town board work session earlier this morning.
Oh, that was this morning? Okay.
Yeah, that was the town board. You should be able to catch that on the town clerk's meeting portal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so who is here for CVS?
I am. I'm Liz Vale, Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, on behalf of the applicant CVS.
And so
And I'm here today with our traffic expert, Dan Winkleman, and our planner, Jason McCroot from VHB, to respond to the traffic comments and answer any questions for the board.
and Chick Voorhees is here for VHB, Nelson Pope.
Carrie O'Farrell and Osmond Barrier.
Carrie, right.
Yes.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay.
So where we are right now is that the applicant has provided a SEQRA, a traffic analysis for the project based on the latest site plan. And you have hired MPD because they were involved in the Hampton Bays recent study to analyze the traffic and analyze the analysis to make sure it works for the property. So they provided a very detailed analysis that I think has some questions for the applicant to address in summary. But do you want Carrie to talk about it?
Yeah, Carrie, there are like really 9 points going down the first 1 and 2 are just descriptions. But starting with 3, why don't you go down each point that you're asking for additional information or corrections on?
Do you want me to put the document on the screen
The site plan would be,
okay.
The site plan might be most helpful, but if the board would like, if you have the memo, in front of you, I would think the site plan might be most beneficial.
Okay, just 1 second.
And then you can just read it, Carrie.
Claire, I have a
You can read the language.
an update if you'd like me to share that. That'd be helpful.
Excuse me?
I have a color site plan that we've updated that I can share if that would be helpful.
Oh yeah, do you want to share that?
Sure.
Or do we want to look at the existing site plan? No? We want to look at apples to apples.
This hasn't been changed since the last review and the last submission.
I think that's helpful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little larger if you
Can
could.
you make it larger? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all
Okay.
yours, Carrie.
So as you noted, in general, the review indicated that the traffic study is well done. There were some specific comments. Number 3 and actually 3, 4, and 5 are all mostly minor corrections in the report that are not particularly meaningful, but I can go through those. The number 3 was just an error in one of the in one of the volumes indicated in the figures as compared to the table. So the table needs to be corrected. So that's minor. Number 4, again, was just a more of a clarification to make sure that the table was matching. Number 5 is a request to address other planned projects that were previously identified in the Hampton Bays overlay district study, that those should be included in the underlying volumes. It won't change the outcome of the study in a significant way, but we felt that it should be included. Number 6 is more just asking for some justification. They used a shopping center land use for trip generation estimates for the Hamlet Green, the adjoining property. It functions a little bit differently than that. They used to have a different sort of category for neighborhood shopping. And we're just asking for them to justify why they are using the rates, which is a lower volume of vehicles as opposed to the other option is regression equations. It makes sense for this use. We agree with it. The justification should be added so that it's clear. So those first couple of comments are more just housekeeping items. The next few are more meaningful in the overall scheme of things. Number 7 was also somewhat of a clarification, but the trip distribution that was assumed for the CVS and the existing movie theater were very different on the roadway, how they distributed vehicles coming in and going out of the shopping center based on those 2 uses. So the movie theater assumed 65% of the vehicles were going to depart to the west, meaning that they were going to go through the Springville Road Montauk Highway signal. but the CVS had a much lower distribution in that direction, lowering it to 46% and 31% depending on, arriving, departing. So we just want to understand how they arrived at that distribution, again, because it matters in terms of how many vehicles are going through that Springville Road, Montauk Highway signal, which is one of the more difficult signals in the study area in general. So we want to, really understand, make sure that those assumptions make sense. For number 8, because they have a shared driveway now with the Hamlet Green, currently when you, in order to access the Hamlet Green, it's a one-way driveway in, and to exit, you have to go south through the property and back around to Springville Road. You hit Good Ground Road, and then you would come back up to Springville Road signal. And when we combine these access points into a single access point, it allows people now from Hamlet Green to head. Can I, am I able to have control to use
Pointer?
Pointer, yeah.
Great.
Sorry.
You should have control.
Oh, you know what? It's because somebody else shared the screen. It's okay. Maybe whoever shared the color version of the plan.
Carrie, I'm going to give you access now. I think I need to do that for you to be able to control it. You should be getting it.
Okay. So can you see my mouse now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry, I think it'll help just to sort of point a little bit more. So currently what I was saying is that for Hamlet Green, you can only come in one way and then you have to exit to the south, wrap back around to Springville Road, and then you hit the signal. But when you join the 2 access points, it gives people from Hamlet Green the availability, if they want to head east, to come back out onto Montauk Highway through this proposed access way. So it's increasing vehicles that are going to, if somebody's heading east, you're avoiding the signal, which is good, but you're increasing the number of vehicles that are on Montauk Highway and then progressively down to the next signal at Ponquag. So our comment is, because we're going to see an increase in vehicles headed to that next signal at Ponquag, that really should be analyzed.
And that's a 2-way in, right? 2-way in and out?
Are you talking about on Montauk Highway?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can come in, and then it is restricted to rights out only.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a full access, but it does. Again, if you're planning to go east, it would make a lot of sense, not to have to go around and wait at the signal. You would just, rather use this one, which again is helpful to the signal. However, we need to understand, what happens further down the line.
That signal at Ponquag will back the traffic up past Hamlet Green often.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the idea. We should understand how it operates. And, we do have, because we did the Hampton Bays Overlay District study, they have counts available at that intersection that they can use. So we said it would be fine to use that available data for that signal because now is not really a good time to do counts given COVID. So it's a worthwhile analysis to do to make sure that we're not causing issues, like I said, further down the road. Let's see, number 9. Number 9 is going to depend on the outcome of some of the additional analysis that we're asking for. But the concern was that if there is, that in general, the CVS is adding additional vehicles to the roadways in this area. And part of the Hampton Bays Overlay District traffic study assumed some larger general mitigation measures to help the area as projects proceed. And we felt that it would be fair that this project contribute to that overall improvement, their fair share, based on the percentage of trips that they're adding to the roadway, as it compared to the overall Hampton Bays Overlay District potential projects. So it would be a fraction of again, the larger development that's contemplated in Hampton Bays. But this is the first project that's coming in, and depending on what the outcome is, again, a proportion of that of those improvements seem to make sense for them to contribute. Number 10, and this is actually, we may or may not, it may be better to go back to the old plan, but there's an existing fire lane that exists along the building frontage, both on the north side and on the east side, which you can see that it's striped out on the previous site plan. Claire reached out to the fire marshal and they indicated that those fire lanes need to stay, that those are required on both sides of the building, given the size of the building. So that impacts quite a bit of this parking along the north side of the building. And then potentially, we've asked them to reach out to the fire marshal to understand how that may change this driveway area. Because right now it's considered a two-way driveway, but if that fire lane, the question is, can the access road be within the fire lane, or does the fire lane have to stay completely on its own? Meaning that this may have to be reduced to a one-way, a one-way drive. So depending on what happens with that conversation, it may impact both the parking along this side of the building, as I mentioned, and then also
show that along. Is that along the front of the building?
Yeah. Can you see my my mouse still?
We lost your arrow.
Lost your mouse.
Oh, you lost my mouse. Why is that?
Go back again and pick it up.
There it is. It just went.
Do you see it?
Well,
oh.
no.
No, it seems like it's dying right at the building. Hang on. I wonder why. I wonder if I can mark it. Hang on. Let me see if I can use a marker highlighter. Let's see.
Now we see it.
There it is.
We got it.
He's alive.
Okay, well, it is these on the north side of the building. It's 23 spaces that are within that fire lane on this north side. And then depending on what happens with that access road on the east side of the building, it may impact these 4 spaces depending on what they say, whether or not, they may need to push this over a bit.
That's a lot of parking spaces.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was the concern, that, depending on what happens. So they did it kind of has a twofold situation. One, about the number of parking spaces provided. And then they also did a parking assessment where they looked at shared parking between Hamlet Green and the shopping center. And the findings of that was at peak use of all the different shopping center uses, they needed 151 stalls and 146 are available on the shopping center site. So they were proposing that they would need 5 spaces during those peak periods at the Hamlet Green. The Hamlet Green has 100 spaces available. has 100 spaces available. The code requires 99, but in terms of actual use, this is a bit of an underutilized parking lot, just based on observations of the site. And then again, kind of looking at aerials over time, ITE has a parking demand estimate, and they looked at that and found that ITE would show that the demand for Hamlet Green would be 66 spaces. And again, they have 100, so it does give some room, 34 spaces where there could be some overflow. But our concern is that if we start losing these 23 and potentially these over here, we're starting to get really tight in terms of what type of overflow there is available. And again, that's an ITE estimate. It's not, it's not perfect. It's not actual observations. It's a good idea of what to expect. But when it was just 5 spaces out of 35, it seemed comfortable. But with the loss of the additional parking spaces because of the fire lanes, it's starting to, potentially become problematic.
Is the fire lane an absolute definite? The fire department wants that?
We're going
Claire, I
to
don't know.
verify that they've submitted some information to the fire marshal, and we're going to get an absolute I
Determination.
spoke to the chief fire marshal, and then I also, in the background, was the head of the site plan reviewers. So they're the ones who verbally told me that this might be an issue for them, for the applicant.
Yeah, Claire, if I may, we had reached out to the fire department. I spoke with Fire Marshal Chris Hansen at the fire department, and my understanding from him is that they follow this New York State Fire Code. There's no additional local requirements for fire access, and based on our review, these fire lanes meet the New York State Fire Code. They're greater than the 20-foot wide requirement. There's no restriction in the fire code for limiting access to one-way in fire lanes. So we believe that this complies with New York State Fire Code, but as you mentioned, the plans have been sent to the fire marshal for his formal review.
Okay, I mean, we'll get the final answer, and you'll know it.
Correct.
Analysis. Okay.
And just the last little part of the parking side of it was minor, but that just in terms of functionality to make sure that we recommended some signage to post to direct people to the overflow parking in the rear and at Hamlet Green, just to make sure, it's being utilized.
Great. Thanks, Carrie.
Sure.
Dan Winkleman is here from VHB to respond to these comments. Can you hear him? Is he on? He's on, right?
I don't see him. He was on.
I don't see him either. Jay, is he on?
He is. He's just muted.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. So as Mrs. O'Farrell mentioned, most of the...
Excuse me, can you just state who you are and your affiliation?
Sure. My name is Dan Winkleman. I'm with VHB Engineering. I'm the traffic engineer working on the project. I was the one who performed the report. And I can summarize some of the comments that Mrs. Farrell went over. As she mentioned, comments 1 through 6 are really just little minor things that we need to take into account in the updated analysis. They won't change the results of the analysis. They're simply just to make sure that it's a complete and accurate report. In regards to number 7, which was about the trip distribution that we used, because this is a movie theater, and when we looked at this, we looked at the nearby movie theaters that would, draw traffic from this area. And what we realized is that there's one movie theater to the east in Southampton, and then the next movie theater to the west was all the way in Shirley. So we expected more traffic to be taken from the west and go to this site under existing conditions, as opposed to in the future, this will be a CVS, it'll be a neighborhood use, and it will be drawing traffic more evenly from the surrounding areas. So that's the discrepancy in what we feel, how traffic initially under existing conditions is attracted to the site versus in the future, how it would be attracted to the site. And we've prepared a memo in response to this, and we're going to, obviously outline that our understanding of this in the memo. I'll move on to the next one unless anybody has questions about that.
I mean, I just have a question that it's speculation that more people would come from the west than from the east.
More people, what we feel is under existing conditions, more people come from the west to go to the movie theater. But once the project is complete, traffic would be a little bit more evenly distributed. So we feel that more traffic would potentially come from the east after it's done, well, not so much just the east, but from other access points. Now you have Good Grounds Road and you have Springville Road. The site essentially has more access than it does today because of the cross-access nature of it. So that was our feeling with our distribution in our report. In terms of number 8, this was where it was requested that we analyze the intersection of Squiretown Road, Ponquag Road, and Montauk Highway. We've updated our analysis. We've utilized the Hamptons Downtown Overlay District report for our volumes. The analysis shows that it's not going to have any measurable change in level of service or delay. And we are going to update our analysis and include that for your traffic engineer to review. Just moving along to comment number 9 was kind of the synopsis of all of the comments being combined into an updated analysis. And like I said, we've updated our analysis, and it shows that the results of the analysis really have not changed. They're still consistent with our prior analysis. Some of the delay marginally went up, but no level of service on any of the approaches or movements changed. So really the results of the analysis are unchanged. But however, it will be a concise and accurate report, and will address Nelson and Pope's comments on this matter.
Can I just ask a question on number 8? If the relationship between number 8 and number 7, if we are assuming that we are now going to get more east traffic, that means that traffic's going to be hitting that Ponquag light. I guess I'm missing why you think that wasn't going to have an impact.
Because of the Good Grounds Road, now that we have access to Good Grounds Road, a lot of traffic will disperse to the south end of the site and go east and west and try to avoid using Montauk Highway because it's a little bit busier in nature.
Yeah, I'm
so people will certainly still go east, but now they'll have 2 opportunities to go east, as opposed to initially our site could only go east through Montauk Highway. Now there'll be the opportunity to use Good Grounds Road to also go east and ultimately south if they prefer.
I'm sorry, I guess I misinterpreted what you were saying with 7, that you believe that trip distribution is now going to increase coming from the east now to use the CVS site. So if trip distribution is going to increase coming from the east, isn't that going to put a greater burden on that Ponquag Squiretown intersection?
And that's exactly what your traffic consultant said, and that's why we analyzed the additional intersection, and we have taken into account the traffic volumes that we feel will go through that intersection. And after the analysis was concluded, we feel that it's still going to operate satisfactorily, and it's not going to have any impacts, and conditions really won't change.
Okay, I guess I'll want to hear the response by Nelson Pope on that. Okay.
So we'll see the report, and we'll review the report again and look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, please, Daniel.
I'll touch upon comment number 9. Obviously, that's just revising our traffic study to take into incorporation all of the comments that we heard up to that point. So we'll be submitting that shortly, along with our response letter, detailing exactly how we went over each one of
So
these.
you'll do a fair share analysis, as it's called?
Yes, we will. And to touch upon comment number 10 and 11 in terms of the parking, just to kind of give you the worst case scenario, if the stalls along the front of the building and along the side of the building were removed from the project, we would be removing 27 stalls. The analysis did show that during peak times that we would still have a few stalls surplus during those very basically 2 period peaks throughout the day. There's only a window where, like around 1 o'clock, where we would expect to see the vast majority of the site's parking used. But again, we are consulting with the fire marshal. We are optimistic that the site plan as shown will comply with New York State Fire Code. But until we have that determination, we are kind of holding off on revising the report and submitting it, because that would impact our parking analysis. And just to clarify, for purposes of my parking analysis, we did use ITE for the Hamlet Green site. And typically we would use, our parking analysis would be based on average peak parking demands. For our analysis, we used the 85th percentile peak parking demands, which obviously are higher than the average. So we wanted to provide for a very conservative analysis because we didn't have actual empirical data for the Hamlet Green site. So we wanted to take a conservative approach. And even with that very conservative approach, the parking still worked. And it would still work even if we were to remove all those stalls. And again, hopefully we will not be removing those stalls, because obviously we want more parking than would be otherwise. But I just wanted to let you know that how the parking analysis was conducted, very conservatively, and happy to answer any more questions on that aspect.
Have you taken a look into the backup that happens on Springville Road, that you can't get in there?
Yeah, and that's the very reason that do not block the box markings are over there, to help with that left turn into the site from Montauk Highway. So yes, we definitely did look at it. The queues, obviously we have more access to the site now. The queues are going to generally remain the way that they are today under existing conditions. And we don't expect them to be any more significant than they are today. And that's especially the case because now you have access to Good Grounds Road. So now having access on Good Grounds Road helps better distribute the traffic from the site. It doesn't overburden any one roadway. So it's a very, in terms of the comments that was taken from planning staff to combine the sites, it was really very good for this site, because now we can distribute traffic to 3 different roadways and not overburden any in particular one.
That's the key.
Yep.
Getting the other property involved. Yeah.
Can I ask how COVID has affected this? I know that in Hampton Bays, we've had an increase of year-round residents. How is that factored in?
So all of my traffic volumes were collected pre-COVID. So they don't account for any increases or decreases that you might be seeing out there. They're typical conditions. They were all collected in the summertime, so it's certainly your peak season out there. So we collected peak season traffic volumes. We did it on a Friday, we did it on a Saturday, and we did it on a typical weekday and Thursday. So we have, typical summertime peak traffic volumes, is which this has all been based upon. COVID has impacted traffic volumes in different areas, different ways. Out there, yes, I believe, traffic has probably certainly increased. You're seeing a lot more people, occupying homes that wouldn't have been occupied at this time of year. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not using other things such as, delivery services. They may not be going out to the store as much. Maybe they are. What we've been seeing is that the AM peak hour is really gone down. And the PM peak hour, when everybody's a little bit more out and about, whether they're working or not, has increased somewhat. That's kind of a general trend is what we've seen. This is we're all in uncharted territories here. We don't know where things are going to go. We expect them to somewhat normalize over time, but it's really too soon to tell. So we kind of have to use the traffic data that we have that we know is typical in the past, and that is peak for this area typically. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of dealing with traffic and parking during COVID
I'm most
times.
comforted that you use the peak, because that's what we seem to be locked into peak for the rest of our lives out here in Hampton Bays.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, so you're going to respond to the Nelson Pope and Voorhees questions?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? So there's no action on this. We're just reviewing it.
We would request that you put us on for the next board meeting because we plan on responding, I think, by tomorrow in writing. So you'll have a good 2 weeks to look at the response.
It'll be 3 weeks, just so you know, November
Okay.
12th.
November 12th?
Yeah, so everybody else can attend.
Did you, just one quick question, did you, I guess, do we know how quickly we can get a response from the fire marshal? Because that's kind of.
Oh, yes, we can get a response in the week.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
well, they do very well. Okay, so
Let's go on. What date?
count 10 on the 12th.
November 12th, okay.
Okay.
And you'll forward all that to us, okay. But thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you could stop sharing your screen. Thanks.
Sure.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Okay,
Thank you all.
thank you. Jackie, you're up for the next 4 items. So number 14.
Yes, and so the applicants should be Joseph Gaza and Blair Gaza. If you could let them in, please.
We have seen this, Jackie, haven't we?
Yes, this is the existing Ocean View Park, Parkside, New York Developers Corp., and Seabreeze Estates amended development section. So.
You want Marla too?
Yes, Marla, please, as well. And since they're all coming in, I'll just share the screen.
Where are we?
Hi, Joe. We can hear you.
Oh, good afternoon, board members.
Good
Madam
afternoon.
Chairman, Joseph Gaza here.
Yes.
I don't see my picture on TV yet. Can you see me?
No.
No. Oh,
You have to speak to Blair.
Video.
you know, my wife is helping me.
Start video.
And I've lost my
video.
helper Blair.
Hit the start video button.
Yeah,
Okay.
there we
There we
go.
go.
There you go.
Oh, here we go. All right. Oh, I'm ready. Give me my toupee.
Stop.
I'm so excited to be on television. You
There's
know,
Blair.
and I Marla, I want you to know that you can watch me on TV.
And is Marla
Yeah,
coming?
is Marla in? I see her name. I don't see her video. Marla, can you hear us?
No. Yeah, I think you can start, Jackie.
Oh,
Okay. All right, so I will just go, let me click here. So I'm sorry. So this is the resolution I prepared. I'll just refresh your memories with the map, which is provided.
It's Marla.
Okay, so as you'll recall, oh, hi, Marla.
Hi, I'm clicking away. Am I on?
Yeah, we
Marla,
can see you.
Yeah.
We can see
All
you.
right. Thank you.
So if the planning board recalls, this is the development section map that I kind of call the Edge of Woods map now, which Marla owns in the middle. Joe has parcels along this side, and then also development lot 8. So the development section map is here. One of the main components of this is changing the access so that it has better line of sight down here. And then also another main component is to provide a common driveway to service the northern lots here, so that there's a shorter road and less grading is required of the natural landscape and the steep slopes in this area. So we are here to approve the amendment. It has been referred to the required town development agencies. So I can go through the resolution quickly, but this is a type 2 classification because we are just basically redesignating the design of the roads and the lots. We did receive comments from the Department of Fire Prevention, which had standard comments about fire access and for properties to have their addresses posted. This map is proposed to be served by public water, and a hot fire hydrant is proposed at the terminus of the cul-de-sac. The North Sea Fire District also offered comments on September 30th that provided that the board has determined that the installation meets with fire district regulation and the location of the fire hydrant. So they have approved the water main proposal and fire hydrant as shown on the map that they received. We did get comments from engineering division from Tom Houghton, engineer. He had lengthy comments, which you can see there, which were forwarded to the applicant, and they are currently working on revising the plans to provide those details and necessary information. Okay. Then we also, we got 2 rounds of comments from Tom on this. We also received comments from the superintendent of highways. So what happened when the referrals went out in August, we did not have the updated road plans because they were still being worked on. So they just want to have those road plans re-referred to them, which I can definitely do once we receive those revisions. The Conservation Board had comments from August 26th that stated that the amendments and that the track is greater than 200 feet away from any wetlands, and then it's in the aquifer protection, which it will need to comply with aquifer protection clearing restrictions, and the reduction in improved road length will allow for preservation of the natural woodlands and steep slopes while reducing impervious surfaces, and the Conservation Board supports the amendment. So moving on to the Trails Advisory Board, we did get comments from the Trails Advisory Board. Most notably is that they're asking that the 10-foot dedication that's currently in easement and a future dedication also be provided. So that was for the grading on either side of the road, but that also be provided for future trail easement. So I have incorporated that into the conditions of approval. Another thing that they asked for, which I will show you the aerial, but they did ask for the northern portion of Lot 8, which is going to be restricted by a conservation easement to allow that to possibly allow for a future trail. And I will show you the aerial. So it's kind of hard to see on this area. You are familiar with this.
Can I just interrupt? Can you all put yourselves on mute because we're getting a lot of ambient sound from something?
Oh, I think it's Marla.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, let's stop. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, I know. I was like, ooh, okay. So if you'll see this, this is actually the end of Split Rock Road that comes down here. So what the Trails Advisory Board is looking at doing is in the future, because they don't have this integral piece right here, but they would like to have Split Rock Road and possibly provide for a trail connection through the north of Lot 8. So I just discuss this with the applicant and just would ask for there to be wording in the conservation easement that would allow for a future trail, but only, you know, and then only by the planning board actually, you know, basically looking and approving the location of the trail and with notification of the future owner for this area right here, which is, so as you guys recall, the northern portion is either open space or conservation easements north of the high tension lines. Okay, let me just get back to where I was. So that's really the gist of them. They would like to have the 10-foot easements along the current right-of-way, and then in the future, if there's any abandonment further to the north, I was going to have that be also a map note that it would, if it was abandoned at any time in the future, it'd be subject to a trail easement. So that way that public right going north of Broadway would also be retained. So also then I just have reiterated the that we reviewed the planning board reviewed the map prepared by Squires and Holden and revised, and oh sorry, this is old actually, but I'll put in, sorry, the new public hearing date, which is September 10th. And that we held a public hearing. There was no public comments on this. So the planning board, and we did not receive any in the written comment period. So with that, I do have a resolution to approve the subject amended development section, and then I have conditions here. So first is, to submit the road and drainage plans, which comply with the comments by the assistant town engineer. Next is to amend the map and show the 10-foot trail easement along the proposed dedicated area along Broadway and expanding that 15 feet wide north of the cul-de-sac. Submission of a conservation easement on parcel 8 consistent with the easement area shown on the development section, and to allow for future trail in the location to be determined by the planning board with notification of the property owner as a condition of planning board approval and as the transfer of development rights for the parcel. And then these are standard that we had from the previous approval, which is submission of utilities, cable and TV, and then construction and drainage of the road infrastructure and approved based upon the town approved plan with with the road review committee, and then installation of those utilities prior to building permit or or conveyance of any parcel to somebody, conveyance to another owner essentially, so that the burden is on the developer to provide that. One thing I did want to mention, which I didn't incorporate in this, and I wanted to make sure the planning board was comfortable first, is the, I'm going too far, is the abandonment of the southern portion of Broadway. So if you'll see here, with us now utilizing this, which provides a better line of sight and a more aesthetic curve into the development, it leaves this portion of Broadway, basically as no man's land. So Mr. Gaza has been working with Marla, and he has given me a draft certificate of abandonment to request that this portion of Broadway be abandoned. So that would have two benefits, which there would be no longer a road here that would be used for access in the future. And then also Marla could make her lot slightly wider in this location because the physical access will be through here. So if the planning board is comfortable with the approval, I can add another be it resolved that the planning board has no objection to the abandonment of this portion of Broadway. And
Any questions from the board on this?
does anyone have any questions?
That seems to make sense.
Yeah. Joe, do you have any issues with this, or can we vote on it?
You're muted.
Oh, Joe, you're still muted. Joe, Marla, you can unmute yourselves. We cannot hear you.
Okay. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
That's what Donald Trump's going to be saying tonight.
Okay. All right. Okay, no objection.
I wasn't going to bring him up.
Okay, Joe, do you have any issues with this?
Yes, I got a couple of things I'd like to bring out. We are extending the public water main up to the end of the cul-de-sac with a fire hydrant to satisfy North Sea Fire District. I think it's a great idea. And it makes all the lots closer to water, public water. The business about the trail easements, I'm a little hesitant, but I'm going to go along with the trail easements, except on the north part of lot number 8. Lot number 8, that northerly portion, it's protected by a conservation easement. I would like to donate that land to the town. If you're going to put a trail through it, I have insurance questions, with liability with creating a trail through property that I own. If it was an existing trail, I would understand. But when you're creating a trail, that raises an issue for me. And Jackie and I spoke about this. My idea is for me to donate to the town all of the land that's protected by the conservation easement. It fits in with all of the town-owned lands to the north, to the east, and to the west. The town should own it. And I'm prepared to donate it if the town would accept it. And there's a little issue about whether it's a subdivision. I call it a property line modification because the town does own contiguous land to the north. But whatever could be worked out, if I could donate that to the town, it would get me off the hook for the liability for the trail. And you can put the trail wherever you like, and it has a high hill on it. that maybe you want to have a little turnaround, a picnic bench or something. And if you owned it, you could do what you'd like. That's one issue. I have another issue, and that is if Marla abandons that portion of Broadway to make her lot a little wider, could she obtain the development rights from that abandoned street? Because she already has 200,000 square feet of development rights on her lot number 5. And it would help, since extra land, it amounts to, I think, 8,000 or 9,000 square feet of development rights. But Marla and I have been trading rights back and forth to make this project work over the last 8 or 9 years. And it would help if she could obtain the rights from underneath that portion of Broadway, if the board would see fit to allow that. What else did I have here? We are short on lot number 8 with development rights. And I have submitted to Jackie, we've gone over all the numbers, and I'm going to propose to use development rights certificates that have already been issued by Mr. Wilcox to fulfill the 200,000 development rights for lot number 8. And I'm a little short on, is it 2 and 3, Jackie?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I have the certificates. They're in compliance with the board's policy of more than 50% from Southampton School District. And if we could go along with the use of development certificates, it would complete the development transfer of rights so that every lot in this proposed plan of 8 lots would all have 200,000 square feet. And the development right issued to sleep.
So I think what Joe's speaking of is when we were discussing this in late February of 2020, we did approve the development to fill up the parcels. And at that point, Joe wanted to provide additional development rights from West Hampton because of the lack of development rights in Southampton. In discussing this, I was uncomfortable at first, and the planning board was receptive. And you guys requested an overall analysis of the map to make sure not more than 50% was coming from West Hampton Beach. So Joe and Blair have provided that analysis to me. I have a little spreadsheet here with my paperwork that I have gone over with Blair and then recently with Joe in mid-September. So they provided all of the previous TDR calculations and what has been sent, and they provided figures that basically over 800,000 square feet of development rights have come from Southampton. That includes sending rights and the actual physical land. And then around like in the high 700s was from West Hampton. So as a completed table that was prepared, it showed approximately 52% of the development rights originated from Southampton School District, including the physical land and development rights sent. And then around 48% approximately was utilized by the planning board and will be if you guys make motions on the applications to build, which I have prepared for today. So basically it does comply with your 50% rule, that 50% Southampton, 50% West Hampton. And in this case, it actually slightly exceeds your previous requirements for 50%, where 52 has been provided by Southampton and approximately 48 has been provided from the West Hampton School District. So I do have that analysis in the file and I have it available to you if you'd like to look at it. But the board was receptive to that in February, so I think Joe just wants to make sure you're still receptive to that for the applications to build.
It's consistent with it. It's consistent with our policy, Jackie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And they provide the analysis. There was a couple of revisions and I have the most recent table in the file.
Okay, is that a yes for the TDR?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
As long as the numbers work, Joe.
All right. And then how
the numbers work, and I'm sorry, in February, I just didn't have the numbers or the time to go over the numbers, but I went over the numbers both with Blair and Joe, and the numbers comply with your policy.
And what would the board's pleasure be on allowing Marla that extra 9,000 or 8,000 square feet of rights from the road to be abandoned?
Yeah, I mean, if it's underlying rights, why wouldn't it stay with the lot though, Joe? I mean,
well, the lot already has 200,000 feet on it, so.
Oh, okay.
Bring it up.
The excess over those rights.
Excess.
Yeah, well, if you've got excess rights over that, take whatever you have excess off that. Certainly, they are Southampton rights, ironically.
Okay, so
and throw them over,
elsewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So one issue with that is in the past with a resolution that we passed in February that had excess rights for lot 1 because of the merger of this portion. It's actually the triangle right here. This parcel was actually already 200,000, and then Joe was able to acquire this triangular piece down here, which allowed for the road to be changed. But the supervisor was not comfortable essentially issuing a development rights certificate. So I just want the planning board to know that, because we do this all the time, we understand the OFAL map process and the amount of development rights, is that most likely what's going to happen is the excess of approximately 8,900 square feet from here. If the planning board's comfortable, Joe has the same situation where if you're comfortable, we could basically send that. And I've talked to Dave that we could do that with a TDR. So something would be similarly done with Marla's portion here. And I don't know the exact square footage of the abandonment in front of me now, but this would essentially, we would do that through the TDR form because the supervisor was not comfortable sending a development rights certificate from a development parcel. And what we can do as a part of the what we do on other TDR applications is that, whatever area is in excess, even though he'll be utilizing it for development rights, is we would preserve it through a conservation easement. So that way it would be the equal, but the planning board can consider where that conservation easement is at the time that we consider the TDR. So I just want to let you know that there's a similar circumstance on this lot where it's a little bit in excess because of the merger of this triangle, and the same thing would happen with Marla. And it's absolutely within the planning board's purview to acknowledge the excess and allow that to be sent somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, it would be used in Southampton anyway.
Yes. And I think the conservation easement's a good idea, Jackie, maybe along Edgewoods Road.
Yes, and if it can be for the equal amount or maybe a little bit more, depending on how.
Well, an equal amount would be nice.
Well, you get
a little more.
no, well, you get to build no matter what. I'm just saying if we can't match it perfectly to the 8910, whatever it was.
Okay, well, I think that's an excellent idea. And preservation, Marla, are you in agreement with a little buffer along the Edgewoods Road?
Yeah,
Yes, that's fine.
It wouldn't be much, and it wouldn't be where the building envelope is anyways, and
Right.
then the aesthetics of the wooded nature of the whole.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yep, good idea.
Yeah, that,
Okay, where does that leave us now?
So if you're comfortable, we
Wait,
will.
Jackie,
Okay.
Jackie Fenlon, if I can just
yeah.
be heard,
Absolutely.
the conservation easement issue. Joe, I appreciate your liability concerns, but I would not recommend that the town take that property and fee just by meets and bounds description. There really should be a subdivision and a real ownership division. So I wouldn't recommend that. I absolutely appreciate your concern, but I don't think we can do that without a subdivision.
Jackie mentioned something about a one-lot subdivision procedure.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up because I meant to mention that earlier on, but the conversation followed in a different direction. So if the planning board would like, you do have the waiver provision of the code under 292, where when it's for preservation purposes, you can do a one-lot subdivision. So essentially you could divide this off and basically require this as open space to be deeded to the town.
Would you be able to, even though it's non-conforming, Jackie, would we be able to do that?
Oh, you know what? Let me think.
You could attach it to town land. It's not a.
But we'd be creating a non-conformity.
Yeah, but Dennis is right.
Dennis is
the
right.
section speaks to conformity.
Dennis is right. So Joe, you would just need a variance, but I think if you could explain the situation, it would be
You
a
might
variance.
fast track it.
Mhm.
You'd run into that anyway, Joe.
It would be a variance, and then they would actually forward it to the planning board as a referral from the ZBA. So we can give a planning board referral report that explains the situation.
Okay.
Although at this time, I would like the planning board to proceed because I do think this is a very important trail link that we could get up here. We right now don't have this parcel, but what happens is Split Rock Road comes down here, which as you can see is a privately developed parcel. So I don't know if we're ever gonna get this trail link, but it is foreseeable in the future that we may get this through preservation. So then we could continue the trail up through here and into town open space land. So I would like to proceed with the conservation easement to allow for that trail in the future. But knowing that we would anticipate a one lot waiver application to come in after that, which then the planning board, when then the conservation easement is intact and allows the trail, but also then the town would take ownership to this northern portion.
Ms. Murray, you think we could work out some kind of language in this trail easement to give me a little protection if the town wants to create a trail through the property and I still own it?
Yeah, I'll look at the language, Joe. If I'm not mistaken, I thought that there was some kind of indemnification language in our current trail easements, but I'll email you a typical one, and yeah, we can work on that.
We could, thank you.
I think there's also triggering language that the easement doesn't come into effect until the linkages are set.
Yeah, so that was
Right.
my intention, is that even if it wasn't Joe, if it was a new property owner, that they would basically be aware of where the trail would be created based upon, you know, the acquisition and, you know, advisory referrals from the Trails Advisory Board. So that way.
We'll have that lot split off long before then, Joe.
Exactly. But I want to have the language in the conservation easement to protect the intent of the trail. But knowing that, you know, shortly thereafter this approval, we're going to work with Joe on a one lot waiver. But Joe, I do think, you know, now that Kathleen mentions that you do need to have conforming lots, but you'll have to make a variance application to the ZBA for the one lot waiver.
All right.
Okay. But it seems to have the support of the board, so we'll give a referral report to the ZBA explaining the situation and planning board support.
Well, and I would ask the board if we could approve this map for the third time over the 12-year period that it's been before you.
Okay, well, let me call for a motion, Joe.
Good idea.
Motion to approve the map by Dennis, second by
Amy.
Blaney.
There you go, Blaney.
All in favor?
Don't make me come over there.
Will you take this off the screen so we can see the board?
Yes,
please?
sorry. I was making notes, I apologize.
All in favor?
All
right.
Okay, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Unanimous.
Got it.
Great.
Finally.
Finally. Thank you. I have a last comment. Claire, can you see me?
Yes.
Can you show everybody your new baby? Claire just made me a grandfather last week. Where's the baby? Can you show everyone the baby?
Okay.
Come on. I'm a new grandfather for a
Good to see
baby
you.
girl. Her name is Waverly.
Oh, nice.
This is her first appearance before the planning board.
On TV also.
And not her last, I'm sure.
Televised.
I hope not.
Televised. I love the name.
Thank you for giving me that opportunity
Congratulations,
to
Claire.
show off my granddaughter.
And for her birth gift, you gave her a development right.
I got something else in mind.
No, he got me a printer.
Congratulations.
Happy machine.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and thanks for hearing me this afternoon.
Joe, wait, actually, we have your TDRs on.
Okay, we have Parks.
You ain't done yet.
Don't go away.
Next one, Jackie, Parkside map 484.
Yeah.
development Parcel
Yep.
8.
Yep, let me just share the resolution.
What was that?
Who just flushed the
Oh,
toilet?
it wasn't mine.
I think it's
What
Marla.
did you have for lunch?
Not here.
Okay, so here is, Joe and Blair, the only thing I need is the certificate of development, certificate of abandonment to fill in for this. But this is development parcel 8, so this is a parcel. And Joe is proposing to fill this with remaining West Hampton development rights from Development Rights Certificate 16 dated October 13, 2013. So that would establish 49,720 square feet from West Hampton School District, and that would fill up this lot, and it would have 200,000. So he would be ready to build, except for the submission of the conservation easement. which I'm going to add in here. It's in my other draft copy. So the conditions of this would be to authorize, this is also a type 2. So this would authorize the redemption of development right certificate 16, as I stated before, to provide the 49,000 square feet roughly that is needed to fill up the development parcel. So I'm just asking for a submission of the original development rights, partial redemption of the 49,000, a legacy development right certificate can be created for 18,000 square feet by the development right manager, and that a submission of the fully executed town development rights be submitted for the file, and then standard road review committee and clearing restrictions would apply for this lot.
Any comments or questions? Can I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Blaney, second by Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Okay, and then next I have the
Joe also,
yes,
16?
Joe also. This is development parcel 4 in the same map. Let me just bring up the resolution.
Development parcel 2.
Yes, this is development parcel 2 on the same map that's also owned by Joe. I just want to bring up the resolution before I share the screen.
So this is just filling in the.
This is filling in everything, so the map will now be buildable. Yeah, that we just approved. Yep, and I wasn't comfortable providing you with these applications to build until we approve the amended development section. Okay, so this is the approval resolution for the development parcel 2, as you can see here. So this is actually mainly in New York Developers Corp and Seabreeze Estate, because this is on the eastern side of the map. So this does need only 11,968 square feet to make the 200,000 square feet. He is proposing this from a Southampton development right, which is development right certificate 78, which is recently dated July 2nd, 2020. And with that, we this would also, there would be some remaining from development 78, which is he's going to also use on development parcel 3. So a very similar conditions of approval, and this conservation easement, this does not have a conservation easement on it. This is the 2 middle lots that we're proceeding with right now on the east side of the map. Did anyone have any questions? This is also a type 2, and this would authorize the signature of the development right.
Oh, okay. Motion to approve.
Motion.
By Robin, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor and 1 absent. The last is number 17.
Yep.
That's number 3, right? Parcel number 3.
Yes, this is development parcel number 3. So let me just bring up that resolution for you. And I do apologize that these did not make it into the packet because I had to go over all the math one more time, and I was away a few days for Columbus Day weekend, so I apologize. And here you go. So this is development parcel number 3. And let me just go into full screen mode. So as you'll see, this is development parcel 3. This needs 52,759. So he is proposing to use the remainder of the Southampton development right number 78 to bring in square footage of 23,213 and 20.25. He is also providing certificate 16, which is from West Hampton, which, you know, again, still meets the 50%, which is a development right from October 18th, 2013. Sorry, October 13th, I'll change that. And that is for the 29,545.75 that is left, that is needed. So this resolution allows for the redemption of those 2 development right certificates from the town, and a legacy can be created for the development right for the West Hampton for 68,000.
Okay, any questions on this?
Motion.
This item? Okay, motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. You are done.
Thank
Joe, Blair, Marla, thank you very much.
Bye, Marla. Bye, Blair.
Bye, congratulations.
Thanks for bringing this to a conclusion.
Yes, great. Okay, we're moving on to number 18, administrative site plan review. Anthony, that's you.
Yep, that's
Mercedes.
just the Mercedes site. They there was a second entrance, just a delivery truck entrance that had had an area of geoblock material. They found that the geoblock material was being completely destroyed over the last couple of years. So they proposed to replace just 970 square feet at the apron with asphalt. It came in as admin, and Janice signed off.
Okay, so that's just for our acknowledgement, right?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, and then the sign plans, we're acknowledging Verizon Wireless High Street.
Yes, they were signed this week.
Okay, and number 20, Seascape Condominium Corp.
Yep, I'm here from that, and yep, they were signed as well.
Signed as well.
Yep.
Great. Okay, motion to adjourn until 6 o'clock by Gloria and second by Robin. All in favor.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1